Hello and welcome to another entry in the M Games series that I've been doing on YouTube, where I look at a bunch of M games in MAME, games beginning with the letter M, or along those lines anyway. Sometimes I'll mix it up a bit. As long as there's an M theme to them, I'll look at them. And hey Mitchell, thanks for joining in. Good to see you in the chat. How are things going? This is Capcom's Muscle Bomber, which outside of Japan was known as Saturday Night Slam Masters. The sequel to it was known as Muscle Bomber Duo in all regions, but I thought, you know, I'll play the original because it begins with M, at least the Japanese version does. And so, yeah, let's credit this one up. Now, this is a 4-player game. Obviously, I'm not going to be playing it with 4 players, but you've got your sort of Royal Rumble mode, you've got your regular wrestling mode, and yeah, it's a wrestling game. And look, you've got Hager, who you may recognise from another game. One of my plans for May, celebrating my birthday maybe? I don't know. The M game series probably won't be running in May too. I'll find something else to do for May, just a different theme entirely. The M was March. May I could just go, right, I just want to play shooters. But I don't know. Or I'm just going to pick a random letter maybe. I don't know. It's, you know, the M fit quite nicely for the March, but it's not going to fit for every month, is it? Because I can't keep doing M in May and March, and then J in June, July, and January. It doesn't really work, does it? So, yeah, I can imagine this would be really good with 4 players, actually. I mean, I've never had the opportunity to do that, unfortunately. But, yeah. It's, okay. Just checking the buttons set up. Yeah, okay. Good. Hager is getting his bum kicked at the moment. There we go. Pinning him. But yeah, this is a very arcadey wrestling game, as you'd expect from Capcom, really. I don't know quite what they were doing when they went for the CPS2 sequel, the Slam Masters 2 on that. I turned that more into just a standard fighting game, which really didn't work for the series. But these original 2 are good, fun, action-based wrestling games with Capcom's usual graphical style, and you know they're instantly recognisable. Doesn't mean I'm any good at them, as you will find with many games, but. Yeah, I'm not going to do J on both June and July. I'm just going to pick different letters, I think, or a different genre. Although, to be fair, I think specific genres don't really have enough games in them, and too many are hard to categorise. Get back in the ring. I don't want to be counted out. No. How are you doing anyway, Pablo and Thomas? Ooh. Better than Hager is here, I hope. So, I am very out of practice at this one. I think last time I played it properly was in the Callus days, you know, when Callus was the CPS emulator to go for. And that was probably 20 years ago now, so... if I'm a little rusty on Muscle Bomber, that would be why. It's never one I've seen in the arcades, but it's got your classic wrestling stereotypes of different wrestlers, and obviously you've got Hager from Final Fight. It's all really well presented. You've got your entrance sequences, and yeah, I mean, you know, clearly influenced by all the big name wrestling. I'm sure we can recognise the type of character we've got going on here, and maybe say exactly who they were influenced by. I can't even remember how the controls work in this. This is the problem I'm having right now. Now, say the sequel, Muscle Bomber Duo, I believe brings in the tag team mechanics, which really adds another dimension to the game. I might look at Duo later. But, this character seems even harder to control than the previous one. We'll get there. We'll get there. I'm just really bad at every fighting game, if that wasn't clear. Yeah, I did have to... I was going to stream the other day, but then I had a few monitor issues. I mean, the monitor I was using for displaying the game on decided to bite the dust. I mean, it was a 13-year-old monitor, and it was been on the way out for a while. So I wasn't too surprised, but got a replacement. The replacement's not great. It's a cheap LG monitor, and yeah, you can see quite a bit of ghosting trails on it. The reviews for it didn't... I mean, it was mentioned in the reviews as a minor issue, but you really notice it on the older games, which is a shame. But I'm probably going to use this as just a monitoring monitor for OBS, something like that, and put another one in for playing the games, a bit of a better one. But I just needed something to tide me over, really. So yeah. Oh dear, I collapsed in the dressing room. That's what happens when you don't continue. But yes, it's your typical Capcom presentation here. Always music going on, always something going on. Yeah, I can see the ghosting on the monitor here. It's like I don't need to turn the CRT filters on. But, you know, I keep them on. There has been an update for the CRT Geom Deluxe in MAME, but I don't think it's quite working correctly, or at least the defaults aren't much good, because I turned it on and it makes it really hard to look at. So I'm not using that at the moment. I'm using the... I've not merged that into the tree that I'm running this from yet. I don't know if that change will be in the next release or not. I don't think it should be, because I think it needs some more work, but we'll see. Anyway, what do I do? Shall I just let the attract run a little bit here? Or shall I put in another coin and play again? Shall we put Team Battle Royal on? Without more than one player, it's a bit pointless, but... Let's go Astro and Kimala. Yeah, it was Saturday Night Slam Masters outside of Japan. Strangely, the sequel wasn't Saturday Night Slam Masters. The sequel was Muscle Bomber Duo. So they used the Japanese title for that. I don't know why it wasn't Saturday Night Slam Masters Duo. Maybe there was a licensing issue, but then they went to Slam Masters for, you know, the CPS2 version. So here, yeah, you've got your Battle Royal. You've got to be the one that survives type match. It's a bit of a novelty mode, but again, it's highly influenced by real wrestling events and say Royal Rumble and all that stuff. I just don't know really the best way to play any of it to show this game off. It's a wrestling game. You've got all your characters. I guess because there's no big name licenses in it, it was never as popular as, say, the WWF games, WrestleFest and Superstars, and even the Midway one. But, you know, that's not too important when you're actually just playing a game. You know, look at some of the best games, they don't have any licenses attached to them, they just do a solid implementation of the gameplay. Pro Evolution back in the day that for the football games was always considered one of the best ones, and had made up players and everything. I think it's got real teams and players now, but I'm not actually sure. I do have a copy of one of them over there for the PlayStation, but it's not really one I've played much. So, yeah. Oh, he's out. You gonna pin him for me? Okay. There we go. Oh, it's a team Royal Rumble, is it? I thought I guess I did pick two characters, so yeah, I just thought the Royal Rumble mode was everybody against everybody. I was wrong. Yeah, the sequel does have different mechanics. That's why they did that. Actually, I'll put the sequel on now just to show. But yeah, I'm going to put the what's the set name? Muscle Bomber Duo. What's it called? Oh yeah, that one was the subtitle is The Body Explosion. I really love that as a subtitle. M-Bomb-R-D. Right. That's the set name. So yeah, as I said, for the sequel, the Ultimate Team Battle version, with the Duo subtitle, Capcom did actually just use the name Muscle Bomber Duo even outside of Japan. So yeah, it's a more of a small update than a real big sequel. You could be excused for not noticing initially. But you see it's got Duo there on the title screen, a different subtitle. And yeah, it's got this mode as the default mode now. I'm not going to play this for too long because you've seen it already. But yeah, this pushes the tag team battle royal mode to the primary mode. That's why I actually thought the other version had it as a normal battle mode, because I thought they made this unique in this one. But you know, now let's do this. The controls seem slightly different on this too. I don't know if that's just me, but I seem to be fine. You know, the button 3 just seemed to be doing more like jump. It didn't seem to be jumping on the other, unless that's broken in the emulation. But I don't know if they added the jump in this one. So it's been a long time since I played it properly, to be honest. So yeah, this is the sequel. It's pretty much more of the same, isn't it? You can tell it's the same sprites. The CPS2 version was Slam Masters 2. I don't think it was not called Muscle Bomber. Was it? Or was it called Muscle Bomber in Japan? Hey, hey Casper, how you doing? I don't remember. The CPS2 sequel was just not much fun though. It's more of a fighting game than a wrestling game. Although you could argue that this isn't that close to a wrestling game. It does have more wrestling mechanics than anything else. Well, good, Casper. Thank you for joining anyway. Feel free to have a chat with everybody here. We've got a good selection of people having a little talk about the games at the moment. So, you know, yeah. But yeah, I thought we'd start off with some wrestling games. I'm probably going to cover another wrestling game after this before we just move on to a few more general purpose games, because there is, you know, at least one more wrestling game that begins with M. I think there might be two actually. CPS Changer. I mean, they're not that interesting, are they, the CPS Changer games? The most interesting one was the Street Fighter Zero before the CPS2 was emulated. Other than that, most of the CPS Changer games I don't think are even dumped, are they? I mean, there were CPS Changer versions of quite a few of the Capcom CPS1 games, but they just don't seem to ever show up. Anyway, you see, that was that round. We can get the next round, or I can just quit out now, because that was that. So yeah, was the CPS2 version called Muscle Bomber in any capacity? No, it's oh yeah, Super Muscle Bomber in Japan. So I don't know. It's called Super Muscle Bomber. Let's cheat then. Let's break the rules a little bit already, just to get the whole trilogy in. This is Super Muscle Bomber, so it's Muscle Bomber with a super on the front. It's still an M game. I'm just going to say, here. So this was the CPS2 version anyway. The Japanese version. Again, the American version and world version has gone back to being Slam Masters at this point. Yeah, Ring of Destruction Slam Masters. But this, in Japan, it still had the Muscle Bomber title. I'd completely forgotten it did actually. But it's, it didn't come up in my searches and list making because it's got Super in the front. That's a very Super Street Fighter 2. Very, very Super Street Fighter 2 Super that. But yeah, early CPS game. You've got Hager again, so let's go with Hager. But the game is now just a fighter. You've got no up and down movement. You're just on a single plane. It's lost the thing that made it different. They've just tried to make it like a Street Fighter game. It's got some rope mechanics. You can run off the ropes like this and jump around. And it's got wrestling style moves, but it's less of a wrestling game. It's not terrible, but it feels like they should have gone the other way and made it into more of a proper wrestling game. Maybe made it more exciting like the WWF games. Instead, they obviously thought, well, Street Fighter's popular. Let's kind of make it half a Super Street Fighter 2 spin-off with the whole logo style, and let's make it have Slam Masters IP, Muscle Bomber IP in it. It's probably. Also in terms of what's going on, I think the CPS 1.5 that the older game was on could have easily handled this. It's not got huge sprites, so as a CPS 2 game, it's a little disappointing. Which maybe tainted the your initial impressions of it, because you're looking at CPS2, you think, well, CPS2 can do bigger sprites, more going on, and this is a little bit, feels a bit like an older game. You might have been forgiven for thinking this one more of a prequel than the actual Muscle Bomber game, the original. It's still got really well designed characters and everything else. It's still got all that quality. It's just missing the 2.5D aspect to it. And the music sounds great these days with the improved Q sound emulation from a year or two back. So it's got some stuff going for it. 3 seconds remaining. Yeah. The stream title. I tried to come up with some sort of pun for all of them, but no, don't always know what to say. Yeah, like I say, it's just a very ordinary game. I mean, it's playable. But I don't think anybody's ever going to say it's their favourite. CPS2 game or favourite Capcom fighter or favourite entry in the series, unless you just really don't like the gameplay style that the original 2 games offered. I think it was a bit of a misstep from Capcom, but it's actually better than I remember from last time I played it. I mean, if you're talking missteps in terms of games, I think things like Golden Axe the Duel probably stand out more, in the sense that everybody just wanted another Golden Axe game, and it was just a very plain versus fighter. I mean, I never managed to find any appeal or get into that game. Again, I think I'll cover things. I'll probably look at this again in an episode where I look at sequels. I don't know when that's going to be. I don't know if that's going to be on Twitch or YouTube. But that is one of my plans still. I want to look at things like sequels or spin-offs that didn't quite work. Your Spy Hunter 2s, Pac-Man Pluses, Rainbow Islands Extras, this Final Fight Revenge, although that doesn't run too well. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty more. I'm sure if I said what's your list of bad sequels, you could come up with plenty. Well, the current Q-Sound HLE is based on studying the actual Q-Sound internal ROM and the code and implementing the effects. That's why it loads the loads the actual internal ROM these days, even with the HLE, because it's using the tables from the internal ROM, because we don't want to copy them into MAME because that would be a copyright issue. So it loads the Q-Sound ROM and it uses all the internal tables for everything, and just simulates the behaviour rather than running the DSP. Because if you run the actual DSP emulation, it becomes very, very expensive. These barely run at over 100% on my machine. It's actually a really powerful DSP they've got for the sound system. So yeah, I'd say it should be effectively 100% accurate. There might be a few issues in the sense that it's slightly more capable than the original. The original might take a bit more time to process a single command if you spam it with commands. But in practical terms of how the game works, I think you can probably call the Q-Sound complete at this point. And it does sound, like you say, so much better. I've not specifically tested Tetris the Grandmaster as a test case, but in many of these Capcom games, it's just so much more pleasant on the ears. It's like the FM stuff that is going in the next release. Just so many of the games just sound that little bit noticeably better. That if you try and go to an older version, it just sounds wrong these days. So it's definitely something to look forward to in the next main release, which should be out fairly, I think, last Wednesday of the month usually, so not this Wednesday coming up, the Wednesday after, I think. For the release after that, it looks like Aaron's trying to get in rewrites of some more of the FM cores, so we should probably have them all rewritten by the release after the next one, and I'm looking forward to giving those a test too, see if there's any improvements. But yeah, that's so that is the big thing for the current upcoming main release is all that the sound rewrites. I don't know how to do any of the special moves in this, by the way. I can see there must be some because the opposition are doing them, but I don't know them. But it's alright. I mean, you can get through some rounds without them. I'll probably quit this one after this round because we've been playing a Capcom Muscle Bomber games for a good 25 minutes now. And I don't solely want to focus on the Capcom games because the Capcom games, people tend to be aware of them. Although it's good to show them off every now and again because, there's some of those games that people will more likely remember from the arcades. Good for nostalgia. And also good to look at the ones like this where they just weren't that popular compared to the other ones. I mean, Capcom can have games that aren't popular just like anybody else. There we go. Haga 1. Seems a little on the easy side, actually, this, early on. I mean, you would have thought they'd be throwing me off the machine by now, but apparently it's not. Of course, all the arenas are wrestling rings, which does limit the appeal of the graphics a little bit for a fighter. You sometimes want a bit more variety in the stages, but the wrestling theme has constrained them to really just doing rings in different cities. But I don't know. Come on then. Come on, sheep. Just beat me, sheep. Doesn't really look like a sheep, does it? It's not a sheep at all. More of a falcon. I think I would have called this graphic falcon, not sheep. But I don't know. There we go. Just yeah. I'm trying to lose. There we go. Punch me in the face. And there we go. Haga lost. No, I don't know why it's called sheep. Maybe there's some reason that I'm unaware of. But it certainly wasn't a sheep sprite. AAA. There we go. AAA is... It actually lets you have AAA as a name. That's not always the case, is it? I don't know if Capcom often let you just use AAA. It's not something I've really thought about, because I don't usually just enter AAA, but I know a lot of games will just change AAA to some default. But, yeah, obviously the guy was quite proud to put his name in the intro here in track mode here. Maybe the game deserves a little bit more love than it gets. I don't know. It got buried under far more popular CPS games, and you're always going to compare it to the games that came before it. And they had a bit more creativity. So, this is also a wrestling game from '85. This is by Technos Japan, and it's called Mania. And it's a vertical game, so I shall change my layout. Why am I clicking there? There we go. Maybe for another stream, the FM Towns version. For anything like that, I need to have prepared it in advance, because I don't keep all the like the CD stuff and everything on the local drive. So I've sort of got a list of M games, mostly arcade ones for this stream. I've not researched any non-arcade ones this time around. Yeah, I see Q-Sound does sound really good on headphones anyway. I mean, you get the spatial effects and everything. They come out really well. Now, I'm going to play against the Insane Warrior. Now, there we go. You can tell this is a much easier, earlier game. But, you know, some of these early wrestling games actually were really popular. Now, is this the same as the main event, or is the main event a different game? I can't always remember the names of these either. I know the main event is, I think, another wrestling game. But it might be a different name for this one. I can't remember. Hey Master Ninja, how you doing? 1, 2. So, did anybody in the chat catch some of these Twitch streams I was doing when they were live? I mean, I've tried to mix it up. The Twitch streams were... I decided to ultimately end up looking more at bug fixes in MAME, and then looking at some of the themes afterwards. Because there has been quite a lot of bug fixes in this cycle too. And doing some of these streams has helped uncover things that I wasn't aware were broken that needed fixing. Oh dear, that was a mess. Mutant Fighter is on my list. It's not one I'm especially familiar with. But yeah, I was planning on doing Mutant Fighter at some point tonight. And get up. Oh, there we can pin him. Number 1. Yes. There we go. But, classic 8-bit tunes here as well. Karate Fighter. Sounds a little less intimidating than Insane Warrior. Can you climb? I don't think you can climb up on this one, can you? Ah, right, okay. That's that. I didn't realise that was your account. So thank you for following and watching the Twitch ones too. Then that's always really appreciated. It's helped because I've got the Twitch affiliate stuff set up now, and that that's a good sort of milestone in getting established on Twitch. So it's definitely helped having you around and commenting and talking about a lot on the videos I've been broadcasting. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I don't know things are broken, then I play them and I find the bugs. That's what happened with Riot. I was really surprised when that was broken because I thought, the emulator in that drive was in a better state than ever after the final Star Force fix. But it just turned out that that did show me pretty much how the games were being configured differently, which is important because now the driver is better than ever. Both run, and we've got an idea of why the behaviour is needed and the fact that they're not clearing the line and everything else. So yeah, I need to at some point look at another one that I found was broken when doing it on stream, Metal Hulk, the Namco one, because I know I can see what's wrong in the code. It's got the rotation layer and it's turning off wraparound, and there's even a comment in the code saying wraparound disable is not handled. So I need to look at that and make sure it's handled. Or the code, you can tell it's old MAME code. The code is really not well written, so I might just end up doing that device fresh and implementing it in a neater way. And one of the good things these days is that MAME's quite well organised, so individual implementations of things are in their own device emulation, their own files, which for the Namco ones I split them from a big single file some years ago. So it's there and waiting for me to fix, I think, if nobody else gets there first. But also looking in the same file, the rotation layer used by Metal Hawk is the same one used by Speed Racer. And Speed Racer's a mess, but Speed Racer's got an entirely own code path in there as well, which probably just means the whole emulation's broken and really needs a proper look at. So if I can fix Metal Hawk, I might be able to improve Speed Racer. And we do get quite a lot of requests for fixing up Speed Racer because it's really not in a great state. Unfortunately, you don't seem to get to choose any different characters in this game. I'm glad my random streaming times end up being convenient then. I really don't always know when I'm going to be streaming. I'll just sometimes decide, right, I feel like doing it, I'll put it on now, and that'll be that. Anyway, we've already seen this game and what it offers. Now, so the main event. Yeah, the main event's the Konami one. It's a different game. That's what I thought. Although there's also the SNK main event. Because, it's one of those cases where there's two games with the same name. Or almost the same name. Let's have a look at the SNK main event. What's this? Oh, it's a wrestling game. From SNK. Or a boxing game, maybe even. It's got Joe in it. Wait, is this just an early Legend of Success Joe? What are the controls? Oh, okay. Twin sticks? Yeah, twin sticks. I've never played this before. Yeah, Speed Racer probably shouldn't be marked as working. Right, that didn't go down well. What are my controls? So, right stick, left stick, and 4 buttons? Okay. I think this one is a pad time. Or would be if the pad was plugged in. This is awkward. Apparently my pad's not plugged in, or I've knocked the USB cable out at the other end. Let's try and fix that. Now, this is probably going to confuse MAME and all the IDs and everything else. Okay. Let's see if it works now. Well, thank you, Ogre. That's it's much appreciated. Yeah, Speed Racer is one that, if it ends up working better after I've looked at Metal Hawk, that will be a nice bonus. If it doesn't, then there might be CPU core bugs at play, which would not be ideal. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with this game. In fact, I should probably use the triggers instead of the pads. Hold on, yeah. Instead of the buttons. So that's block. Oh, okay, the buttons are punt. The buttons are do your moves. What? Okay, this is obviously not SNK's most famous game. I mean, that would be putting it mildly. I mean, I've not played it before. Although, for some reason I have some memories of maybe doing something with the emulation of it, just never playing it. Probably because it's not very clear how you actually play it. It seems to be a twin-stick game with block, dodge, move, and other buttons that do other things that I can't quite work out. And yeah, well, this is SNK's main event for you. I'm sure it works, I just don't know how to play it. Okay, well, you know, that wasn't actually the game I was going to look at, but, you know, that was a game, a boxing game. Because the other main event game, which is called The Main Event, not a commando situation on our hands here. This one is by Konami from '88, so this is the newer game. And this is a wrestling game, and this has more standard controls. Although you seem to be buying health in this one. Let's have the totally not Road Warriors.
This is a tag team match scheduled for one fall. Introducing first the
Conan the
combination in the corner to my right. At a combined weight of 547 pounds. The
Not a bad announcer.
Mauler and his tag team partner, Conan the Great, their opponent. At a total combined weight of 790 pounds. Saturn 6, Bigfoot Joe.
Okay. Again, another 4-player game.
Body slam. Hey, your body slam. Hip whip. All right.
And again, I don't know how to play it.
Come on. Side headlock.
I guess you're pressing directions and buttons to do different moves.
Jumping knee drop. Backbreaker. Dumping.
Problem is, there's a lot of button mashing.
Headlock.
But yeah, wrestling games, I don't know. There's some good ones, and there are lots of ones that attempt to do something and don't quite get it right. I think the one that Human did is pretty good, Blazing Tornado. But that doesn't begin with M. I'll have to have a look at that another time. But this is a whole button mashing just to get out of the pin.
The winners of this bout, the Maui Mauler and Conan the Great. You can win the next round. Go for it.
So yes.
Here we go. Headlock.
It doesn't give you much of a chance here, and then it stuns you.
Whip. He's that knee. Missing. Dumping.
I don't really know what I'm doing.
Hey. Backbreaker.
Kicking the opposite direction isn't useful. So yeah, you buy energy. It's one of those horrible buying games. I've got loads of energy now because I keep inserting coins. Just a reminder that microtransactions were a thing. Doesn't really help if I get pinned though, does it?
It's a pin. The winners of this bout, the Maui Mauler and Conan the
Okay.
Great.
I'm rubbish at that. I think maybe I'll come back to that one at some point, but unless I know the moves, I'm not going to get anywhere on that. Hey Christian, how you doing? Good to see you. But yeah, main event, both the main event games, the SNK one and the Konami one. Unless I sit down and work out what I'm doing, I think all that's going to happen on them is I'm going to get beat up over and over and over again. So, yeah, maybe another time. Now, this one was mentioned in the chat. This is Mutant Fighter by Data East. Now, this is sort of a beast wrestling game more than a traditional wrestling game. So you've got your Coliseum there and everything else. Fairly standard Data East hardware setup. I think this was one of the protected ones that needed some work at one point. That's the same font and almost same presentation style as the Captain America game, isn't it? With the sliding pictures and that text. Surprised there's no track sound. I don't think is it turned off? No, apparently it's turned on. There's no track sound in the demo clearly. Unless sound is broken, but I think it's just going to have a silent demo. Got some blending effects going on there on the clouds. Bit of a line scroll effect on the title. It's actually quite well presented. You know, it's a good quality image, good quality art there, I'd say. But yes, it's very Captain American in the font. Now we get some sound. The actual fight has sounds, quite loud sounds actually. So I'm gonna turn the volume down here. There we go. This tells you the controls at least. That's always a good start. So you know, while sprinting, press the attack for a special attack. Now, I do remember this one getting quite unfair too. For knee drop, etc. Also, that's quite a blare sound effect. Max up plus second button for special moves. You're overestimating how good I am at any of these games. Super flow. Select it with up and right. Okay. There we go. Yeah, I guess the SNES port would have been a bit of a downgrade. But I can see why it would get ported. It's probably better than any of the Mega Drive games of this type. I could try Mutant League Football. Don't know how well it works in MAME actually. I mean, I think it's one of the ones that works okay in the Mega Drive. Most games do. I mean, there was another Mutant sports game, wasn't there? Was it hockey? Okay, Minotaur, start fighting and stop. It's well animated, this actually. I have to say, I like the walk animations. I don't really know all the moves. That's going to be the issue for me, I think. And it's probably going to require very fast button mashing at points too. And I don't really like button mashing quickly, which is probably one of the issues I have with a lot of wrestling games. Right, does this mean I can do super throw? How do I do super throw? That's not super throw. Maybe it's not liking the key combination I've got. Hold on. I always forget that default keys aren't the best for playing every type of game. Oh well, no super flow for me. Just take him away. The werewolf is dead. Not just defeated, dead. Nice dagger through his skull. So this is a beast. Be careful of the neck breaker. Oh. Seems to be the same music on this stage as the last stage, unfortunately. I was hoping maybe there'd be a bit more in the way of tunes. Oh, I thought that was my move. I thought I'd done something good. Beast, yes. He is a beast indeed. A beast with a very creepy looking face, I have to say. So when it says super throw, what do I do? I've only got 2 buttons here. Or is it a case of mashing really hard and pressing? I know the attract mode told me, but I wasn't reading properly. I thought it said upright, but I tried doing upright. Upright doesn't do anything. I'm glad to know the game's extremely difficult. I have an excuse for my usual terrible play. Is the game also quite short? Have they sort of compensated for there not being much content by just making it really difficult? Yeah, apparently I can continue. Now I just have a human. Hey Seok, how are you doing? So you've got your environmental hazards there too, which I guess you're meant to throw people in, not walk into. You know, if I can... There we go. Oh, no, it missed. I thought I managed to throw him into one. You want to know the name of the game? It's in the bottom corner. So yeah, Mutant Fighter. The bottom left corner of the screen, sort of down there, there is the name of the game. Arcade games taking quarters, that is expected. Let's have a little look at Hercules before we move on to something else. So for future reference, if I put my hand there, we get the name of the game and the set name. Oh, we've got some. Look, you are a what? It looks a bit like King of the Monsters with all the water right now. Except there's no city to destroy, unfortunately. Can't beat destroying a good city, can you? Up plus kick while grappling. What's kick? I've only got 2 buttons. Unless I'm missing a button, but I've only got 2 buttons. I think it only showed 2 buttons in the attract mode too. Oh dear. Well, that's not my super throw, but we get to see a super throw, and I have a feeling this will be the end. You don't have to pin the other person in this one though. So I'm not going to continue, let's wind down the clock. Yeah, that's it. So yeah, it's only 2 buttons. I just don't know. Yeah, I got the sprint. That's a standard sprint maneuver. See, I didn't manage to do that attack, even though I was pressing the other button. Okay. Use joystick and button to choose attack. Okay. So yeah, you'd really... I guess the instruction card would be telling you what the moves were around the side of the screen, like some of these had on the bezels and everything else. There we go. That's... it's Data East Mutant Fighter. Yeah, I'm probably just not pushing it fast enough. I mean, like I said, I don't really like mashing the buttons too quickly because on the screen, because it makes an absolute racket. So, in that sense, maybe wrestling games aren't the best ones to be playing. You know, there are quite a few wrestling and boxing games in MAME. It's a genre that got quite a decent representation in the arcades. I think even after the ones that MAME really emulates well, you've got like Sega's Giant Gram. Boxing games, there's quite a few too. There's I think one of the undumped games that's never shown up to this day is a fighting game. Is it a boxing game? I don't know. Yeah, I could use the autofire plugin. I think that's... I'm trying to think. I think it's Super Strong Warriors on Mega System 32. I think that's some sort of fighting or boxing game, isn't it? But it's never shown up. We've got Big Best Bout Boxing. That's there, but again, it's not an M game. So, where are we going from here then? Right. I'm just looking at the lists. Looking at the list. Let's go with... Monkey Mole Panic, which is a version of Animal Land Junior. What's the controls? It plays on the numpad. Of course it does. Now this is basically whack-a-mole. But yeah, the series in Japan was Animal Land Junior. When it got localized to other regions, the US, it ended up in Monkey Mole Panic here. I don't think every version of the game is dumped yet. But, you know, it's just a simple mole attack type game. But a video version rather than, you know, one using actual moles, unfortunately, I think. Unless it does use actual moles. It's got a numpad intro, so maybe it's got something hit on the controller. I don't know. I'd have to bring up a cabinet image, actually. There we go. Wasn't showing the credits I'd put in, but conversions. I mean, I guess on those versions, the timers basically serves no purpose anyway, so they probably didn't care. I mean, I'm sure you could put a cheat in if you really wanted to. You just find the memory address that's got the timer and change it. I don't know if it'd play the whole music. I mean, some of the non-conversion versions are emulated now, although it is a bit HLE on how it works, because the actual MCU code isn't dumped. So. Yeah, a well-presented whack-a-mole game with good animations is always a fun little distraction. This one does them in patterns, and you know. Yeah, I think Konami must have just left it in as a novelty, because I don't think it's even copying anything to memory. I mean, it was obviously a bit of a misstep using bubble memory in the first place. But I think they found pretty early on that it wasn't the most reliable of ways of doing things. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you could create a cheat code. I mean, MAME's got the Lua cheat finder. You just look in the memory location, search for the values, and add it. I'm sure if there isn't already a cheat in the cheat.dat file, then I'm sure if you put a request on the cheat forum, mamecheats.co.uk, I think it is, then you could probably get somebody to come up with one if there's anybody still watching those forums. I think they've been a bit dead in recent years, but be trivial enough to cheat to create, I imagine. Stop. Half time. So more button mashing, basically.
Lady, go!
I failed. I did not button mash fast enough. But yeah, Japan were quite good, the Japanese developers, at taking a simple concept like this and then really upping the presentation. Which is what you got with this one. But, you know. Yeah, but I don't think there's much more to see in Monkey Mole Panic. It is just a mole bashing game. And I'm going to look at another mole bashing game, actually. But this one is not a real game. Now, Mogura Desse is one of those test cabinet things, a game that was sold with cabinets just so that, you know, there was a board in there for testing the cabinet, which apparently was a legal requirement in Japan. So the more famous game of this type is the Mini Invader thing that Taito did, but Konami had their own one, which is this Mogura Desse. So again, it's a very simple case of a very crude mole attack game that tests your joystick inputs, and if you sold a cabinet, it had to be sold with something. So I don't know why that was. I wonder if it was some sort of, is it so that the cabinet could be tested, or was it some attempt to stop generic cabinets being sold for bootlegs? I'm not sure what the actual story behind it being a requirement was, but that's how we ended up with this and the Taito Mini Invader thing, just because they had to have a game with the cabinets, apparently. And yeah, it's very simple. But this is the kind of oddity that being emulated in MAME has given an audience to. I mean, I don't think anybody would have really remembered these or talked about these if they hadn't been emulated. You know, it's a Konami product. I think this is probably a bit more interesting than the Taito one. But yeah, that's that. Yeah, I mean, Mini Vader also begins with M, so we can move straight on to the Taito one, Mini Vader, which again is just a very basic implementation of a Space Invaders type thing. With one invader. There you go. No sound, no, we've got formation. Now somebody did actually write their own game on this hardware, a head-on Pac-Man type clone thing, which managed to get colour out of the hardware even though it wasn't meant to display colours, which was quite impressive. But yeah, again, this one is more primitive than the Konami one, but they did serve the same purpose, just to have a board that came with cabinets. Different formation again. But yeah, you get the idea. They're not really real games. They're just they exist to serve check a legal requirement box. But it is part of Space Invaders legacy. This one. But yeah, that's that one. There was Dottori-kun, I think, was the same hardware. At least I think it was, unless I'm getting confused. And that's the one. So, where next? We've had a look at some mole games, some mini games. I think there's another mole game I could go for. Shall I stay with mole games? Shall I actually bring up another mole game? I will bring up another mole game. I mean, I may as well while we're on the theme, aren't I? This one is just called Mole in MAME. Now, this is the one that apparently there is an undubbed version of that was called Moly Holy, which was featured in Starcade TV show, I believe. But the only dubbed version is this one it's called Mole Attack. And it's a very obscure game. Again, we've got numpad inputs in MAME. Those are some ugly looking moles. Now, I seem to remember this one is hard. Yeah, they what am I doing? Now, one thing I did enjoy emulating, which I'm not going to cover in this stream, is the Street Fighter 2 based thing, that the Kensai Mogura, which again is a mole attack game but with Street Fighter characters. I'm not meant to hit the ones those ones. Okay. Apparently hitting mole bums is a bad idea. Maybe they enjoy it, but you don't get much time to react. It's Combat Hawk all over again, isn't it? Oh dear. I did pass just... Yeah, I'm not going to spend too long on any of these mole games anyway. But, they're worth showing. I'll probably play Kensai Mogura on another stream, actually. That cabinet still gets brought to some UK events from time to time because it turned up in the UK. And the guy who found it, restored it and dumped the ROMs, and I helped emulate it. So yeah, in terms of mole type games, that's probably one of the more interesting ones for me. But this is, your very basic video mole game, but it's fast paced and it's challenging and it does what you want it to. Obviously, it's a genre that actually works better with the physical moles when you're actually giving them a hit, and MAME does emulate a few things that are similar to that. I mean, Wacky Gator is a similar concept with alligators, and even though it's a non-video, MAME can actually, pardon me, run that. Actually, you know what? Evening, Santari. How are you doing? Yeah, the bubble system is kind of emulated. The data's been extracted, but yeah, there's an MCU on there that's doing a lot of startup stuff that's still simulated. So that's why there's some of the initial countdowns not there. It should take a bit longer before it actually starts doing anything, because there's an MCU that's meant to be copying code around everything else. I'm not bad, thank you. I've got a new little monitor here. It's not the greatest one, but since my old one died, I needed to replace it. But it's a cheap LG one, and you can tell. I thought it might be worth trying because it's got FreeSync and stuff, but you can tell everything else has been compromised, and the FreeSync's not worth using because there's so much ghosting on the display. But cheese and beer is always good. I've got a little bit of wine here because it's the weekend, you know, and these streams work better with a drink sometimes, don't they? This was Mole Attack anyway, so apparently there's a version called Moly Holy that's not dumped, unless the Moly Holy version was specifically made for that show and is just gone forever, which is possible. Oh, I don't... The name looks familiar, the cheese. I'm sure I've seen it for sale. I cannot for the life of me say what it would taste like. But I do like a good cheese. I miss the cheese shop that was open here. It seems to become a sort of a shop that's only open around Christmas, and obviously this year it didn't open at all because nothing was open. But there's sometimes a good little pop-up cheese shop around here, although that's mostly more traditional cheeses with extras added, you know, your tequila and lime cheeses and things like that, but they are very nice. May 2:30 should be out the Wednesday, the end of the month, so it'll be a little while. Okay, next game. What's it called? Yeah, the short name's nonsense on this. That's why I'm getting confused. This is Meikyu, Jima. I can't pronounce these Japanese names. Also known as Kiki Cubic. So yeah, but this is the Japanese version, the proper version. I think the version with the English title is possibly a hack. Yeah, those pop-up shops seem to be becoming quite a thing, I've noticed, or stalls. I mean, they're not quite. They're obviously not had any of the food festivals either over this year, but there's similar people that have stores at those and would be selling things. There was a really good Scotch egg one a few years back, which had Scotch eggs with extras in, like bits of cheese in the Scotch egg, and so I don't know. Anyway, this is one of the Irem games that people seem to really like, even though I don't think it got an official English release. I think the English might be a hack. But it's a puzzly game. Hey Peter, how you doing? Just push things, you know, put them into ice cubes, push the ice cubes, make a new path. Can't get to you. I'll push these ones around. I guess it's got a bit of a Pengo type feel to it. You know, it's not Pengo, but you know, the ice theme of this is going to remind people of Pengo, which might be why it was, you know, popular and liked. Yeah, it's not a Pengo clone because it doesn't play like Pengo much, but it's got ice blocks. You push them around. And, you know, if you played it and didn't know what it was, you might think it was some sort of unofficial Pengo sequel. I mean, Irem did have a few good little games like this. They're most known for, you know, R-Type and the like. But there are a few lesser known puzzle games. They've got a good tile-based puzzle game as well. Don't do much with those. Yeah, there you go. I mean, these are like the Snowbees from Pengo, aren't they? Visually, they're quite similar. Little blobs jumping around. Hey Delta Race, how you doing? I don't think this is the same hardware. It says Vigilante hardware. I don't think. I think Load Runner's different hardware, not Vigilante. But you can't do anything with these, can you? No. No. Okay. Oh, I get killed by the block when it bounces back. Again, this is one of those where it's been a long time since I played it. And you do forget things like that. So, yeah, once you push that, move out of the way. Otherwise, you will be squashed. And now it's constantly going backwards and forwards, so I created a hazard. Nice, colourful rainbow cycle. Almost belongs in Rainbow Islands, doesn't it? Almost. The eggs spawn, yeah. Yeah, got caught. You collect the bags to end the levels, and 88. So this is actually quite late for this type of game. 88, really, I would say. You might have thought this would be sort of earlier 85. I would have guessed if I didn't know it was 88 from just from looking at it now. But, I need to make the path across. I shouldn't be doing this badly on round 5. I mean, it's a shame some Irem games still haven't turned up, and probably won't because they probably weren't released. Because they've got a good looking circus clone, with all the trampolines and everything like that, that's still undumped to this day. And I think only ever was at a show. And that, I'd like to see it, because when Irem did puzzle games, they actually usually did a good job. Was this ported to the SNES or something like that? I have a vague memory that it might have been ported to the SNES. Where am I going? Oh yeah, I have to push them there to that, and that knocks them round. So it's yeah, it's got the puzzly elements coming in now. Push you that way, push you that way. There we go. Get rid of that. Get rid of that. Get the bags. There we go. It's nice that it shows you where the bags are before the level fills in too. Now we've got a chicken thing that's causing havoc. Because you can see them and then the level spawns in. What do I do here? Oh, there we go. So you know where they are without the level getting in your way. You can instantly pinpoint where you've got to go, and then you study the rest of the level. But yeah, I've not spent a huge amount of time on this one, but whenever I have played it, I've enjoyed it. So I can see why some people, especially in the early days of MAME, when there weren't many games emulated, this is one people often, enjoyed and would often ask, when's the full English version going to be dumped? Well, let me quit out of it now. Because there's the bootleg version, which does have Kiki Cubel is up there above the title, and that's what people knew the game as. But this is a bootleg. So it's a bit weird that the set name is actually Kiki Cubic, because it's possible that was never actually the official title in the arcade. But it's one of those things that's been emulated for so long in MAME. It's just kind of stuck. I mean, there are a few set names that don't really reflect the game name title. Super Sidekicks 4 is one that always comes to mind, because nowhere in the actual game is that called Super Sidekicks. For the NES, okay. I thought it was SNES, but yeah, NES would probably make more sense. Let me just look, see if we've got that. So, hold on. Lost my I lost what the game is actually called. There we go. I'll get something back on the screen in a minute. So yeah, NES. Yeah, the set name's a bit different. It was released on there's an FDS conversion of it too. I guess that's the Famicom version. But there seems to be a cart version. So yeah, let's have a look at the NES version then. See if it runs for a start. Presented by Irem. Let's see how this holds up. Because I guess this is where maybe people are more familiar with it than the actual arcade, unless that bootleg on the arcade was just so widespread that people played it anyway. But, I imagine it's more likely that the bootleg NES carts were more popular or people imported this. Wait, what? I don't want to go over the ocean now. This actually feels slightly faster than the arcade. Yeah, this actually looks like a good port to me. It seems to have the gameplay intact, and it seems maybe it's got some extras because it seems to want me to select different worlds to go to. Oh yeah, I can move around. Look, I can move around the level and go to the next. So it's more than just a port. It's got extra gameplay if I can work out how to play it. So I can land myself down here. This has got the springs still, so it's slightly cut down on the layout because the arcade version of the stage had 3 springs on either side. So I guess to fit it on the screen, they've made that compromise. I mean, the arcade didn't have the whole platform collapsing either. That's very Dig Dug 2-like. So, yeah, I quite like this port. And this seems to have this bit of story. You have to know where the levels are, though. Otherwise, you're scrolling over blank water. We've got this thing. So, yeah, that does the same. Converts everything into blocks, although I should have let some more spawn before I did it because that was a waste. Music is comparable but obviously done NES style. I'm liking this port. It's a good port. Thank you for checking out which system it was on, Santeri. Because in the back of my mind it was SNES, not NES, but it doesn't look like it was on the SNES. So you can't move on the screen. Yeah, if anything, I think this is probably a better version of the game. It's one of those games that does work really well on the platform. I don't remember anybody watching anybody play this, but yeah. The layouts are slightly changed because there are less tiles. I missed the easy one. It seems to be one of those where you can either complete a level quickly and get or get all the bonuses. So there are different strategies for scoring, I imagine. You've got a time bonus there too. But, yeah, you can see where the other level is. So there's one above me. Yeah, I really like this port. I might play more of this one off stream at a later date, or if I do a conversion stream, because there are quite a few conversions that are worth looking at. I would say. I was discussing with somebody else Chase HQ conversions the other day, and the FM Towns version came up. Well, that's a weird one because all the videos you can see of the FM Towns version have got a weird raster glitch, except maybe 1 or 2. So I'm just wondering that runs differently in different hardware setups, and some of the FM Towns units may be a bit faster and glitch in a different way. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure at all. Right. Now let's load one that I'm sure practically nobody here is going to have played. Now, this one is Mahjong block Jongbou. And it begins with Mahjong. And I think the fact that it begins with Mahjong means that most people aren't going to have even tried it. Now, it's an SNK game from 87. It does have a dip switch that has girls. I've turned that off because, you know what happens in these games if you leave that dip switch enabled. Yeah, you get some images between levels. But yeah, this is one of those odd concepts. It's like that Mr. Jong I was looking at the other day. It combines two genres. In this case, it's Arkanoid with very Arkanoid-y sound effects. I mean, they almost stole these straight from Taito. But you're also picking up Mahjong pieces if they drop, and you can swap the positions of the hand for every one you pick up. And since I don't know how to make Mahjong hands, that feature is completely wasted on me. But you can just play it like a breakout game and ignore all that completely. So yeah, it's Mahjong plus Breakout, which is a really strange combination. And, you know, it's not really what you associate SNK with either. Maybe not the best Breakout mechanics in the world. And obviously I don't really know what the benefits are to getting full hands or anything else. But yeah, if you want this type of game and you've played every other Breakout game, you know, you've played all the fantastic ones and the variants like Psycheo's Gun Barrage to death, Gox to death, and you just want something different. Well, this one you might not notice because it's stuck in there with the Mahjong games, even though technically it's not Mahjong. Way back in the old work in progress pages. I think that was one of the most popular things about the project back then. People just loved to see those pages and the screenshots of new things being newly emulated and you know, things they didn't get to see until they were shown on those pages. Although, yeah, as you found, maintaining them just becomes a nightmare after a while. I mean, I've tried to do old catch-up pages on my own site, or just everything that's emulated from a certain year, but it's a lot more work than you'd think for anybody who's never tried to do it. You know, I've got a bunch that I've never even published on my website because there's just some screenshots and no writing and not complete. And then the emulation status has changed so much over the years. If I show a perfectly working screenshot of a game and put it in a sort of 2001 year when it really didn't have half the graphics in 2001, that doesn't really represent how it was. And trying to do it after the fact is a bit of a nightmare because you don't really want to be intentionally uploading broken screenshots just to show how bad it was at a certain time either. Yeah, the project was just growing all the time and more people being involved, more work, more going on. And I mean, so it's the same with Nicola really. When I did end up doing the coordination for a bit, I think it was just getting too much for him to put out releases and live the rest of his life and everything else. But now we've got better systems in place and it's all going really smoothly despite there being really more going on than ever. You can't seem to aim the ball properly in this, which is one of the big flaws in any breakout game. You know, you don't want it to just go at the same angle all the time. You want to be able to control the angles. Otherwise, you're just stuck waiting for it to hit the things rather than having any say over when it does. But, I suppose people might have checked this out because it's got SNK's name on, but there are other SNK games that I'm sure people haven't checked out. There's actually one on the list here that I don't even know if works properly because I can't work out what I'm doing on it. But there we go, completed that level. And you get the next level up soon. There we go. I mean, it just continues the same. It's just, you can play it like an Arkanoid game without power-ups. Maybe the hands give you power-ups for all I know, but I don't know. But yeah, it's an odd little game, that one, and a mix of different things. Now, shall I put the other one on that? I'm not entirely sure if it even works. I think that's what it's called. Or I just don't know how to play it. This might have adult content too, but I'm not going to get to it. Yeah, maybe just skip the level or something. It's also possible. This is Meijinsen. This is horizontal. Which is a shogi chess type game. Now, in this mode, yeah, it's shogi, it's chess, it works. Okay. You play it as you'd expect. It's also got this... No, it's also got this mode. There seems to be a puzzle mode. If I do that, then it does that. Do I have to put this piece on the... Did I complete it? I don't know what I'm doing. Is this a correct mode? Did I fail? Did I win? I failed. I don't know what I'm doing this way. Maybe it works. Maybe I just don't know how to play it. Because I didn't realise before you could pick the pieces up off here. I don't know how to play this game. It's shogi. Maybe it works fine actually, because when I was testing it before, I thought I was in a situation where I couldn't pick up any pieces, and I didn't realise you could pick up the piece that was off the side of the board there. So it probably does actually work. It's just I don't know how to play it. And you can game over that quickly. You can insert a coin, you can make 2 moves, and you get a game over screen. It's you would have thought they maybe would have lives for the puzzles, you know, unless there was a live switch that's just set to 1 life and that's it. It's possible. Okay. I'm slightly weary about playing the next one because I think the audio might end up being muted on the catch-up for it. Which version shall I play? I'll play the standard version. No, I'll play the high school graffiti version, which is actually the same code, I believe, just with different graphics. This is Mikie anyway. One of the Konami's classics, and yeah, it's vertical, so let's set the screen right. There you go. The love hearts, the school settings. You're just pushing people off chairs by shoving them. Now, I'm really bad at this game, as is often the case. But, obviously the soundtrack is It's a Hotter Day's Night. You know, a Beatles song. And it seems very strange to hear it in an arcade game. How do you do this? Okay, I'm going to have to practice a little bit. It's one of those where, again, it will kill you off really quickly the first few times you play it. The AI is actually very aggressive in coming after you. Failure teaches success. Shall we watch the demo play it? You know, you're meant to push them off and get the hearts like that. But I don't know. There we go. And you sit down and the teacher goes back to teaching. Then you push them off again. If you don't realise that, then you just get very aggressively chased. And it's one of those games that has multiple screens as well. And because so many people seem to fail on this screen, they don't even realise that. Got caught. Yeah, it's actually a really challenging game. It does not mess around, this one. But it's one of those that was really popular on the home systems. I mean, even though you don't get many people playing it these days, for the like Spectrum and CPC, this was a really popular game to have back in, you know, back when you were growing up. I didn't know you could headbutt the teacher. I'm gonna have to let that message through, I think, because apparently, YouTube does not like your message. There you go. How do you headbutt the teacher? Yeah, the C64 as well. It was. It's got home conversions that were well loved. Again, you press the direction to push them, not the fire button, which is what I was doing wrong as well. Yeah, I believe, like I say, the program ROMs are the same between two of the clones, just the graphics changed. And that's quite unusual on its own. Maybe the most famous school game on the 8-bits, at least the Spectrum, was still like School Days and Back to School, of course. But those were very different style games. They were sort of day in the life of a school kid causing trouble. Sort of more like what you'd expect Bully to be. The open, I can go out, I can leave the class, look here. Well, I can if I open the door, which requires me to actually press the button. There you go, from corridor to corridor, and I can go in the other door. Well, I could if I didn't get caught. Yeah, School Days was really good and Back to School. I think just, you know, just being able to rename all the staff as well. And, yeah. Then I go into these and steal the hearts from the machines. Or I try to. And I fail to do that. But there's a lot of learning as you play and having to quickly learn in this game too. You can pick up those and throw them at people. But again, I failed to actually get any of the hearts. And the attract mode does tell you what you're doing. It doesn't show the actual joystick image though, which would have probably helped. It's like, yeah, in this case you should use the shout button clearly. But yeah, I've not played the C64 version of those games actually. I only played them on the Spectrum. But they really were, you know, they simulated the whole day at school. You got called to the class, you could write on the boards, you had to use your break time wisely. They were really creative games. They were frustrating to play, and a lot of the time I didn't know what I was doing at all. Because it's like, why are you going around, you know, knocking trophies down? But yeah, great games really. Okay, I mean, I'm not going to play this too much longer. In fact, I'll quit that version. I can't remember which clone used the same ROMs. I think, but is it the regular version that was different? No, it's Mikey J, isn't it? So yeah, the original Japanese version had very different graphics. But I think it's the High School Graffiti version I was playing that is just the graphics ROMs changed over this version. But this obviously looks more like a Japanese school should do. And this has the headbutt. Yeah, see, that's more clear. You have the headbutt in this, whereas the other version just that shouty effect. So, I mean, headbutting teachers it's somewhat more satisfying, isn't it? But I can see why maybe they didn't want to allow that outside of Japan. I can't actually... Oh, I should open the door. I should probably look in the driver to see which version it is that's is just a graphics swap, actually. So, otherwise I might be talking complete, you know, So let's do that. No, you can't see this on screen, but so Mikie J and Mikie K, Japan and Korea use the same program ROMs. Yeah, okay. Yeah, the two main sets, Mikie and Mikie J, and Mikie Korea, all use the same program ROMs. It is that High School Graffiti set that does change it up. Sorry, so I was slightly incorrect in what I was saying. So, yeah, the High School Graffiti set is the one that mixes it up a little bit. That actually changes the program ROMs. But it's very unusual to see multiple games. Also, I'm in the wrong folder there. That's not got the filters enabled. Ah, so it's not actually a school in the Japanese version, right? But this version has the headbutt still, right? Okay, so the High School Graffiti version is the one that gets rid of the headbutt. That version has the headbutt. Yeah, so I got that all wrong when I was talking about it the first time. The regular version and the Japanese version have the headbutt. The High School Graffiti version, which changes the program ROMs, doesn't have the headbutt. It has that shout effect, which I guess is some form of censorship. The Korean version also has the same program ROMs as the Japanese version, although this kind of looks like almost bootleggy in terms of the art. I do wonder about this one. I mean, it's Korea, it's possible it's a hack. So yeah, apologies for getting the versions confused. I knew that some of them shared the same programs, but I thought it was the High School Graffiti version and the Japanese version, but in fact it's the three regular versions are the same and the High School version is different. No, it's one of those where I should have double checked my facts before the stream and failed to do so. What is this then? Okay, is this horizontal or is this vertical? Mania challenge. We're back on wrestling. This is very similar to the one that we looked at earlier, but is not quite the same. I think Mania Challenge, this one, is possibly a sort of sequel to Mania. It's not considered a clone in MAME. But, you know, it is one of the wrestling games I didn't quite look at yet. I'm not going to play it for long because it's very, very similar. But there's a few differences. Yes, this is Insane Warrior I'm fighting right now. Yeah, I was looking at some of the other wrestling games earlier, and I did look at Mania earlier, which is, say, very similar to this. I'm assuming this is an updated version, although I could be wrong again. This could be the original version. I'm just not overly familiar with a lot of these wrestling games. But, you know, we can run it. There we go. I think Insane Warrior is correct on this. Unless there's, like, the clone is different. It's correct there. And it's correct there. So I don't know where... Excite Hour, right. So Excite Hour is Mania. So I guess Excite Hour, therefore, is an earlier version, if it's got that typo in. So that's what you're talking about. So yeah, again, I didn't know that. So that's one of those little facts that's come up in the chat. So thanks for pointing that one out, because I wouldn't have known that. So yeah, that would indicate that this version, which I'm guessing is the Japanese release. Yeah, Maybe, I don't know, but yeah, this must be an earlier version at least. In fact, this has got Technos wrestling on the ring, and it's a Technos developed game. So again, I think the Taito version. This is still a Taito version, but it's got Technos on the ring. Whereas Mania had Taito wrestling on the ring. Taito wrestling ass. Okay. Oceation. Okay, that's the one then. Yeah, so I don't know the exact differences between Mania Challenge and Mania. Sorry, I don't know what you're saying. Is it Spanish? Because I don't really speak Spanish, so I don't know quite what you're saying. But if anybody can translate, please do. Right, I'm going to look at a Neo Geo game. I'm going to run it with the Japanese BIOS. For good reason. This is... I don't think I looked at this already on stream. Let's switch to horizontal. This is Matrimeli, which is part of the Power Instinct series. It's got Playmore's logo. But yeah, this was the entry on the Neo Geo hardware. And it's a very odd case because so much content got censored in this one if you run it without the Japanese BIOS on a non-Japanese system. The Japanese version's got far more vocal tracks with, music tracks. I think it's even got more backgrounds and just more content in general that just got stripped. So if you play Matrimeli, which is obviously a pun on the whole wedding theme, then make sure to play the Japanese version, because the Japanese version is just so much more complete. It's the same ROM, it's software locked out, the content that they didn't want to use outside of Japan. But it's got all your classic Power Instinct characters, and the Power Instinct series is actually a really good series. It doesn't get the credit it deserves, maybe. But you've got entry, you've got Power Instinct 2, you've got Power Instinct Legends, you've got all sorts, Groove on Fight on STV. And it's actually, it's a series that is quite wacky. All the characters are over the top. But I don't know why. Nobody really seems to talk about it much. At least not compared to other famous fighting series. But here you see you've got a nice vocal track. Pogo stick on his walking stick. But you can see the humour from the sprite animations. Yeah, this is what, 2001 was it? 2002. One of the ones that Noise Factory did, actually. So they did Sengoku 3 and this. I mean, I much prefer this one, if I'm honest. And I'm not usually a fan of fighting games, but I just don't really rate Sengoku 3. But in terms of Noise Factory games, this one, I think they did a really good job of making a sequel for Atlas. Songs about overclocking your PC. That doesn't surprise me. I guess this is another one of those where the stream might get muted by YouTube if the music is going to be picked up based on it being all sampled sounds from things. You actually have control over the pogo stick too, and when you jump. But yeah, I guess because it's probably more popular in Japan because the export version of it was just so cut back. And there's no reason. I mean, I don't think, unless it was a licensing thing, I don't think people would have been particularly offended by Japanese lyrics in songs or put off by it. It adds to the mood and music, the feel of the game. Nobody needs to know it's about overclocking your PC if you're just playing a game. And it's like the versus Block Breaker, the Japanese version. I can't remember the title. That's got a fully voiced intro with hamsters flying around everywhere, and it makes it so much more appealing. Even if you can't understand the word of it, it's just got that "this is ridiculous" feel. But here we go. Now, it's given me a mirror match quite early on, which I don't know. I thought it when the mirror match is a bit later on, because you always want to see new characters, but I don't know how it decides when players fight. You know, when you fight the different people, if it's a fixed order or what. But, let's see. And his name is Kanji, is it? There we go. But, you see some similar characters, familiar characters from the older entries if you played the older entries. Obviously, I'm not going to play the older entries on this stream because they were all called Power Instinct or something Legends, I can't remember, or Groove on Fight. They're not endgames, but I will be featuring them on another stream because they're worth looking at. I don't know if Power Instinct 2 still requires a ROM patch in MAME to not mess up. I did wonder if that one was a bad dump for a while, so I'm going to have to check that if that starts you patching the ROM, because otherwise you do a certain move, like a jump, and you'd get stuck. But maybe that's been fixed in other ways, or maybe it is a bad ROM, who knows. Might not have a patch anymore anyway. There we go, I got a rank B, which is obviously not very good. Story. I think the story is missing outside of the Japanese version too.
I will give you a lesson. Round one. Fight.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, in terms, I like fighters that have that wacky element to it. So why I really like Tattoo Assassins or Waku Waku 7. They just have so much character, and things like King of Fighters to me don't. They're just very, very ordinary. I can see the appeal of them, but they're just not games for me. I don't want it to be so serious. Anyway, it looks like I'm going to lose here, so this is probably going to be the end of this. Unless I get very lucky, but... oh dear, that doesn't look good. MAME emulates anything we can emulate. You know, the timeline is fairly irrelevant. This stuff needs documenting and preserving while people know about it, and somebody can then pick it up later. You know, outside of MAME, especially for the recent arcade machines, the way they're being dumped and hacked up and the original images aren't being preserved is absolutely atrocious. It's going to be an impossible mess to clean up in some years from now. And it's going to cost a fortune, and some of it's probably going to have been lost forever. But, you know, I'd rather see the proper stuff preserved and documented in MAME for somebody to come back to later than people badly hacking stuff up to run now. But, obviously, I am in the minority for thinking that, and people would rather just have hacked up PC dumps that are going to cause endless issues years down the line and have playable games now, rather than, you know, just acknowledge that work will be needed in MAME to do it properly. I mean, even the projects could technically be using proper images and everything else, they're just not. It's very frustrating. Once you get to the digital market and download the stuff and encrypt downloads, it gets a bit trickier, but there seems to be no real attempt to do it properly anywhere, and that's going to be a problem. The bootleg carts, that's a different problem. I mean, that's a problem with people converting perfectly legitimate games into bootlegs and making the perfectly legitimate games rare and probably revisions lost. But PC hardware, yeah, people have put in generic PCs and are running those too, and they're inherently fragile, being Windows based and hard drives, and they need preserving properly and documenting for the future so that somebody can come and sort them out at some point in the future with everything documented as it's meant to be. but there's not much momentum in getting that done, and like, you know, people are going, oh, why are there like 20 gig files in the CHD folder that are never going to work? And I don't know, it's a bit of an issue, but what can you really do? I don't know. Maybe we just have to keep trying our best and hope that people realise the value of trying to, you know, dump the unmodified images and preserve them. But I don't know. I just look at that scene and think, oh dear, it's going to be ridiculously bad to clean up later. You know, the Neo Geo scene was terrible because of the number of hack dumps and people making things for Neo Age X that never worked on hardware, and people dumping things with cart copiers. That took forever to clean up too. People trimming the ROMs that weren't meant to be trimmed. This motor's not working. Unemulated protection. I'm not so sure about that, but I think it's just a weird hack. This is Mayday. Well, that's not the version I actually want to play. Because the other version's actually got the credits in. Mayday A. This version, no, not this version. Which version credits? Oh, is this version credit? Hoey. Yeah, this is apparently by Hoey. Not all the sets have the credits. There's also a version by a Spanish company that's credited to a Spanish company. But we think the developer was Hoey. But it's quite clearly a hacked up version of Williams games on cloned hardware, like Defender. But it pushes the hardware far too hard and has a terrible frame rate. So you've got Fire, Mayday and Backfire. When you press Mayday, it does this colour cycle on the full screen that is really, really slow. And I don't think that's an emulation fault. I think it's just that slow because they're rewriting every frame, every line of the frame buffer. But yeah, this is Defender, but you can't change direction. You can just shoot backwards and forwards. But it's clearly hacked up from the Williams software. But it's one of those where the story behind it's quite strange, because some people will say that this was a game by the Spanish developers. Yeah, the SNES hacks that have kept other emulators in use because, you know, BSNES couldn't run them, or Higgin as it is now. I think there's an option eventually to just emulate the machine badly so they could still run, but you don't really want to be doing that. I mean, it's going to be more of a problem as well, I think, with some of the current systems, because you've got all these FPGA clones of systems that don't work in quite the same way. FPGA clones of CPUs, and the software being developed for those. So you can get software for like an FPGA Spectrum or something like that, which isn't guaranteed to actually run on a Spectrum. So you know you're going to have to eventually emulate the FPGA clone, or not emulate the same hardware limits. I mean, you get the same. You get the same with some of these NES things I've been looking at, the VT systems and all the NES clones. A lot of the cloned hardware doesn't actually work in the same way as a proper NES, or has new features. The way you have to try and adapt the existing emulation of a well-established system to accommodate weirdly hacked up hardware that is widespread is really difficult at times to do in a way that doesn't just make the code really, really ugly. I mean, there are Mega Drive clones as well that I need to look at some point. They've got sort of extra video modes that replace some of the old Master System compatible modes, and I don't know, it's difficult. I'm pretty sure a few of the things we've got in MAME, some of the bootlegs have got fake 68Ks that were sort of, well, fake, but, you know, FPGA clone ones as well, that might not work in the exact same way as an original. I was told there were like some Neo Geo boards, bootleg boards for a while, that clearly ran the CPU faster, but it didn't look like it was a real CPU. It looked like it was an FPGA clone that ran about 20 megahertz instead of the usual. And so that's why they got its own compatibilities, and I don't know. There are a lot of messy things to deal with in the future for sure, and you know, just looking at some of the VT stuff I've been doing, it just reminds me of that. There's, I don't know, it's an odd field to be looking at, and yeah, you end up having to maintain compatibility with things that are entirely different to how the original hardware worked. So again, the Mega Drive clones, a lot of them, so these Radica ones and the At Games ones, the Yamaha emulation, not emulation on them, the reproduction on them is really, really bad. They're sort of painful to listen to. If you run them in MAME, if you run the Radica units in MAME, they sound fine because it's using the proper sound emulation. If you play them on hardware, they're really nasty, and at some point I think we're going to have to look at what the bugs are in those implementations on those chips and try and accurately reproduce the horrible sounds. It's the same for the some of them. That multi-game Mega Drive one, I've looked at original hardware videos and it clearly doesn't implement the sprite limit on the hardware because Sonic on that unit appears outside of the ring. Yeah, all sorts of slight variants that need doing because of re-implementations of the hard. Well, Virtua Racing was the custom SS. What's Sega Virtual Pro SVP in the cartridge, so it's always going to be a problem on any kind of clone system. The timing and the way that works is quite messy in the first place. So unless you've got a perfect reproduction, it's always going to be a difficult one. I've got a copy of that myself, actually. One thing that did happen recently was the internal ROM of the SVP was dumped. Can't remember the name of the guy who dumped it, but I did add him on Twitter. That's really quite bad of me. I should remember his name. But I don't think anybody had actually realised it booted from an internal ROM. But it does. It boots from an internal ROM before passing control over to, you know, before jumping to the cartridge space, which kind of makes sense because the cartridge space was otherwise shared in a way that didn't make sense, you know, an unusual way. So it boots from that, and there's an extra security check actually. The internal SVP ROM is checking for an SV signature in the ROMs, so MAME doesn't currently run that code, and it according to the research, it uses some flags and things in the CPU core that the actual game doesn't. So we'll need work on the CPU core, but it's nice to have things like that dumped, you know, because it's part of it's part of the security system. It might make it easier for somebody to develop their own software for SSV if they wanted to. SSV? SVP. SSV is the arcade platform. Anyway, moving on to another arcade game. This is Mang-Chi. It's an Africa game. A Korean game. Now, Africa are probably known for those very generic shooters they did. But they also did one or two other games. And this is one of the puzzle games. It's a bit like that Dharma game, but in this case you can hit blocks left and right, so there's an extra element to it. So, okay, let's play this then. But yeah, you've got to get 3 of the same at the bottom, so you can knock one off either side, and there we go, you see. Go there, I can knock that way, I can knock that way, and get those out. Insert coin, insert coin, yes. I see what you mean, insert coin. Now, they're obviously gone for quite a Taito look here, including the little characters holding up that insert coin sign. I mean, that is very bubble, puzzle, bubble, isn't it? The influences are clear on this. Oh, I messed that up. It's like I mean, it's maybe more understandable when these Korean companies get it wrong. It was more surprising when it was pointed out that, you know, versus Net Soccer, doesn't spell insert coin right, and that is a big name Konami title. But I guess everybody can make mistakes. But they are more common in these Korean games, that is for certain. But yeah, if you like little puzzle games, this one's actually fairly good fun. Not original, although so I'm not sure there were many with the exact same gameplay. There were very similar games, but maybe I'm not giving it full credit. It is very like that Dharma game, like I said, but what would I lost my train of thought on the gameplay. That's wrong. Obviously you don't want to get it stacked too high or run out of time, because both those things will result in failure. And failure should be avoided. Yeah, well, Konami usually really high production values, so to see that creep in one of the games from back in the day is unusual. Timeout. Well, timeout is instant game over apparently. And I was surprised I timed out, but concentration. It's amazing how much time you can waste on these games if you don't quickly just go from thing to thing. That's not what I do, but it works. You know, if you take a break to talk, you end up wasting time you didn't realise you were wasting. There we go. I'm not going to play this one for too long because I think puzzle games, people, once they've seen the mechanic of them, they'll get an idea if they like them or not. I'm sure that sound is stolen from another game. It's a Korean game, so I'm going to say it is, but I'm trying to remember which one. I messed that up. See, this one, now you have to get 4 in a row to do the levels, so it becomes a bit trickier. But on an execution side, you know, this is fine. Africa have done a good job of implementing this. It controls well, it's tight, it's smooth. You can't really ask for much more when it comes to a puzzle game. You just want them to control well, the mechanics to make sense, the stages to be well designed, and it delivers on that front. There's similar games in some of those plug and play units, although, pardon me, they do clone more the straighter Dharma thing, where you can only hit in one direction. Magician Lord has not been played yet. I'm not a huge fan of Magician Lord, so I've kind of been putting it off. But I might have a look at that one in a bit, actually, because yeah, it is quite a big name M game, isn't it? But I'm probably not going to do it justice in terms of playing it. But yeah, there's some interesting trivia with Magician Lord, isn't there? So I can probably look at Magician Lord after this one, in fact. I think that might be a good place to go next. I'm sure if you're familiar with Magician Lord and the set differences, you already know what the trivia is. But not everybody is familiar with it. Yeah, I quite like this one. It's a fairly relaxing one to play. For some reason, the visuals remind me more of maybe Semicom than Africa. Hatch Catch has got quite similar background patterns in places. But yeah, I'll quit that one now because it's a puzzle game. If you like the look of it, it's called Mang-Chi, and yeah, it's playable. It's not got any adult content, so it's. Magician Lord just seemed underwhelming to me, especially for, you know, a really high expensive Neo Geo game. You're thinking, well, what's it comparing? What are you comparing it to? You're going to compare it to Sonic, you know, Mario. your 8-bit, your 8-bit, 16-bit platformers for the home systems. But yeah, okay. So I'm going to run the clone set 2, which is the NGH set. This is the one that is mostly found on the home cartridges, although did end up on some arcade cartridges, bootlegs or otherwise, which is why they're still in MAME, these sets. But the home releases were typically later revisions, and that is the case here. While the ROMs are compatible between home and arcade systems, and the code paths just depend on which BIOS is being used, the software did sometimes undergo changes. But if we're talking Magician look, right, they've got the zooming effect, yeah, making the logo spin like that, not that clever. Then you've got those explosion sprites. Yeah, you're using the zoom effect, but it doesn't look good. A nice proper explosion would look far better than that. It gives a really bad first impression, I would say, is my feeling of this. And then it does seem to just get too hard. Let's just up that to a little bit. There we go. I mean, about Alpha. I always think of it as an SNK game, but it's credited to Alpha. I guess because SNK seem to push it on newer platforms quite a bit, don't they? The attract mode is mostly uninspiring too. But, put in a coin. Tells you how to play. You shoot and you jump. I mean, these how to play screens are sort of a staple of the Neo Geo game. In this case, maybe not the most useful thing. But, who am I going to be? Well, no, who am I going to be? What? Yeah. That's the thing. The home version has this. Well, the later version, sorry, that was on the home cards primarily. It's got a story. If you run the parent set, you don't get the story. I guess this was added later when, added to try and make it maybe more appealing as a home game for the AES system. But like I say, this version did end up on arcade cartridges too, and clearly it was always planned because the resources are all in the ROM for it. It was just not finished in time, maybe, for the original release. Yeah, Alpha did do the hardware, didn't they? If you look at the older SNK hardwares, yeah, the Prisoner of War, things like that, they're very tile strip type setups from what I remember. Oddly, the Black Touch 96 game, which is terrible by the way, kind of clones one of those earlier systems. And hey, main fan, how are you doing? It's good to see you. And hey, Man Shovel as well. Thank you for dropping by. I'm good. How are you? And say how are you too, main fan. Say good to see you. So yeah, you get all the extra little bits in this version, and yeah, they do help. Yeah, Black Touch 96 for some reason is a clone of the earlier hardware that SNK used, which is sort of Alpha's design, but with higher colour sprites, and also a terrible game. So don't play Black Touch 96. It's one of the worst beat 'em ups you're ever going to see, and I don't think it's even finished because it's got a timer box, but there's no point in the game is a timer for use. Okay. Concentrate. What are you up to anyway, Man Shovel? Have you recovered from Sypho's weekend streams? His birthday stream. No, that was I actually ended up falling asleep during that one. I was very tired, but I sort of semi-aware of the games being played. But it's always good fun, isn't it? Seeing a lot of CPC games. What have you been playing then, main fan? I know you've been uploading quite a few videos, haven't you, of everything, but with the the full cab artwork. They always look really good. I've been seeing a few of those on your YouTube channel. It's a good way to show off some of the things that are emulated. But yeah, this is a platform game that just punishes you for trying to do anything quickly. In terms of the overall style and visuals, I'm reminded somewhat of the Bitmap Brothers Gods game. I don't know why. I mean, it's not the same visual style, but this does feel more like an Amiga platformer than an arcade game. At least that's my feeling about it. It does feel like something that, say, the Bitmap brothers might have put out on the Amiga. But here it is as an arcade game. And that's, maybe they had the AES in mind when they did it, and they wanted a more home game. I really don't know. I'm glad there are games on the Neo Geo that weren't just fighters, and I think it's a shame that it just ended up mostly being fighters after a certain point. But this is just a very average. I mean, this, if you compare this to, say, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic's going to win every day, and this cost a fortune instead. I mean, I think the Mega Drive could probably even pull this off. The SNES, I'm almost certain, could. So, what are you getting? What is the what? How is this showing off the most expensive home system you could buy that took cartridges, and the most expensive cartridge games you could buy? Yeah, Toki's a better game though. Toki is a far better game. This is the furthest I've played for this in many years, and I died. I'm maybe not close to gods in terms of gameplay. I just think there's something I can't pinpoint that reminds me of it. No, the Galaxy Force 2 on the Mega Drive is definitely not great. I think I'm going to have to make the chat window a bit bigger. There's more people than usual having a bit of a discussion right now. There we go. Now I can actually read more of it. So, Galaxy Force 2 on the Mega Drive. Yeah. You can say it was too ambitious for the Mega Drive, but then there were better ports on weaker hardware for Galaxy Force 2 than the Mega Drive. I mean, isn't Galaxy Force 2? I think it's one of those where the CPC version is actually pretty good. I'd really like to see the original Galaxy Force dumped at some point too, but again, that's one that's sort of fallen into limbo. You know, rights holders getting wind of who owns the only known version of it, and therefore making it very difficult for it to be posted anywhere. And I'm back at the start of the game already. Yeah, I think this is one of those games that is just okay. It's got some alright visuals, but it does just feel a bit European Amiga platformish, and not necessarily in the good way. I mean, there are some good European Amiga platformers. There are also some not so good ones. I was trying to play, when I was looking at games to play, I was actually looking at some more Archimedes things, and I was trying to play Magic Pocket, and that is a frustrating game. It's like, yes, you can fire off things in random directions that might hit what you're doing. What's getting it very slow and very laggy controls on that one too. I mean, anything you can breathe fire is not bad, you know, but there we go. This is the best thing about the game: breathing fire. Yeah, the Master System version is better than the Mega Drive 2, isn't it? I think the game could have been much more on the Mega Drive. If you look at some Mega Drive games that use the column scroll effects to make good use of column scroll effects, you can see how they could have even tried to do the pseudo 3D really well with it, but they just didn't. It's just it's a waste of a license, a waste of a port. I say license. Did they develop themselves? I think it's third party, wasn't it? I mean, it's the same on the arcade, really, isn't it? You have to use the speed button, speed up, throttle to speed up, speed down, if you want to do well on it. And that's why I'm curious about the original Galaxy Force, because if it's like Afterburner, where the original release didn't have the throttle control, it's going to play very, very differently to the final release. You know, because Galaxy Force, the original, was basically just location tested, then replaced with Galaxy Force 2 in much the same way that apparently Afterburner was, which is why the original Afterburner isn't really widely known. And everybody just played Afterburner 2. Yeah, Star Fox is a good one. I mean, the Sega Star Wars Arcade, or Star Wars, is a popular one. Well, that still crashes in MAME on the last level, I believe, because even though there were improvements, it wasn't entirely fixed. There's some problems with the radars, still some problems with the collision. But in terms of rail shooters, yeah, that, and of course the original Atari Star Wars. Again, that's a classic sort of rail type. I call it a rail shooter. I guess it's a rail shooter, isn't it? You're going along, you have some control with the towers you shoot, but ultimately you're on a path. The Sega's Jurassic Park game is a good rail shooter, although not especially fair and doesn't have a scoring system, but it's a good experience. Rail Chase, which is sort of clearly how one of the influences for the Jurassic Park game, because it more or less is Rail Chase with a Jurassic Park theme, can be fun. Rail Chase 2, the Model 2 one, is just ugly. It's like you've gone from beautiful 2D sprite work and scaling to a really not very pretty 3D game. But yeah, Sega could do some good rail shooters. And Galaxy Force is pretty much a rail shooter. But Star Fox, yeah, you're right. Star Fox just does it better. Star Fox frame rate's not great, but overall I think it is a better game than those ones. And it probably had to be because it was for a console. I mean, you need to give more to the experience, I think, than just, okay, you've put your money in, you've got some fancy graphics and that's it. Rail shooters, or slightly rail shooters. Now, is this? Do I have the files for this locally? And does it work properly anymore? Maximum Force, 1996 Atari, on Jaguar Kojak hardware. So this is one of those where it's all streamed backgrounds off a hard drive. So, you know, this is basically rail shooter, isn't it? Pre-rendered rail shooter. With it's Time Crisis like, but it's on rails. But it's more a gun shooter than a shoot 'em up shooter. Reload is off-screen click. Can blow stuff up. Sorry about the screen flickering. I should have probably warned people that this is a gun game, so it's going to have flickery screen. Now, I don't think this was as popular as Area 51. And that's probably why there ended up being a version of this with both Area 51 and Maximum Force on, because people just wanted to play Area 51. Oh, don't shoot the actual captains. Now there are other things you can blow up in place on these, like you can destroy parts of the barrels. I'm not entirely sure what all of them are. That's extra. Yeah, target rail shooter. That's definitely the best way to describe this one. There's a Judge Dredd one on PlayStation hardware as well that I've not played much of. I think it's the same as the PlayStation version though, just ported to the arcade. Acclaim, I believe, were responsible for that one. So I'm just on a murderous spree of perfectly innocent people. Now, to be fair, this actually, visually, I think, looks really good. I mean, it's a complete waste of the Jaguar hardware. An absolute waste. I mean, you don't need Jaguar hardware to stream video from a hard drive. You could have used many simpler platforms, but I guess Atari just wanted to actually make use of the Jaguar hardware somewhere. And that this and Area 51 really became the two most famous popular games to use anything related to the Jaguar. Because the Jaguar itself was just a disaster. And the Kojak wasn't entirely the same as the Jaguar either. Some of them had different CPU types, which again is a bit of a waste. I mean, is this one? No, this one, see, it's got a MIPS R3041. Again, you don't need a MIPS R3041 to do stream graphics from a hard drive. But this was Atari, and yeah. In terms of Sega rail shooters, I think the Model 3 one. Have you used the Supermodel emulator at all? So I think that Ocean Hunter one's meant to be a good one. So all set underwater, lots of strange underwater creatures, and the Supermodel emulator runs most of the Model 3 games really well. Yeah. The things you do to impress the ladies, eh? I mean, I wonder how long all this took to pre-render, because there's a lot of footage in these games. And I do remember, you know, working with 3D rendering software back in the 90s on the Amiga, and it's like, yeah, you can make a 5-second loop if you leave the Amiga on overnight to render anything. Let's get off the beach. And you, this is not the time to be on a beach. I'm not going to play too much of this anyway, because if you've seen it before, you've seen it before. That's the problem with rail shooters. Yeah, they do have secrets, if you know how to trigger the secrets. Otherwise, it's the same sequence over and over. And, you know, you've seen it, Yeah, I think, hello, Man Shovel. Hello. Is the chat on screen really lagging? I don't know why that would be. I guess it's just YouTube, because you know, I've got the low latency settings enabled as usual. YouTube does always have a bit more latency than Twitch, but I know most of you are usually the ones chatting on YouTube, but it must just be a YouTube thing. I could suggest, you know, trying to refresh the display at your end, but maybe it's just going to be a bit laggier than usual today. Sometimes it happens. I know on big live streams he will do his own little latency test he'll look at another device and count the number of seconds, but I'm not going to be doing that. Yeah, there's in terms of gun games being playable, solutions like that are going to be essential for the future. One of the reasons, I think I said before, is I'd really like to get more of the plug and play gun games emulated, is because they're just becoming unplayable, at least the ones that were proper light guns and not just sort of fake boxes that track your movement. Unfortunately, quite a few of them are difficult to dump. I did ask Sean about the paintball trainer I'd sent him, and it's just two globs, one ROM glob, one CPU glob with direct traces between them, nowhere to connect wires. You know, you have to connect a millimetre, fraction of a millimetre wide traces on the PCB, and you've only got about a centimetre at most between the globs, if that, and some of them just actually got parts, some traces aren't revealed because the globs flow into each other. It's a mess. And I think the original Mission Paintball was the same, and one of the Zavix ones appeared to have died on him when he was trying to dump it, so we've not had much luck with some of those gun games. I'm glad and quite relieved in the end we did get the proper mission, the Mission Paintball powered up dumped, because that was that's the biggest of them. There's the laser tag one I need to work on the emulation of. That's the GPO 16250 hardware. Yeah, they're dumping a lot of those plug and plays is a nightmare. We're lucky to have any of them dumped. It's not a good situation. It's not. It could be worse. It could be worse. It could be all the ones with, say, all the ROM inside the just one glob. MCU types, we know where to dump them, but it's not good either. ML. How well does this one? The answer might be not at all. The answer might be fine. The answer might be somewhere between the two. The classic Electronic Arts logo. And this is Mutant League Hockey. Somebody mentioned Mutant League Football earlier, but I'm going to be quite honest. I'm not going to play hockey well. If it was football, I would not have a clue. That's difficulty, isn't it? So the Mighty Weenies versus the Galaxy Aces at the pole. Yes. So the issue with these Mutant League games is what you're seeing now, really. The frame rate. I mean, the NHL games were relatively smooth compared to this. Also, the issue is I don't know what I'm doing, but this isn't just MAME lagging either. They just seem to have really poor frame rates, unfortunately. The Mutant League Football is American football, not... How do you even do anything in this game? I don't know how to actually fire the puck off. Oh, okay. I see. I forgot. Yeah, okay. I know what I'm doing wrong. I forgot my Mega Drive controls are remapped to different buttons. So I wasn't pressing any buttons. I was just running around with a puck. Yeah, with a better frame rate, I think these games would have been a lot better. But let's go. So, yeah, the NHL games on the Mega Drive are absolute classics. One of the plug and plays is actually an NHL game, and either, depending on your region, one of the Madden games or FIFA. And that's an interesting one, because it's one of those where the games were ported to a Sun Plus platform, so it's not actually Mega Drive hardware, it's completely different hardware. And it's another one where some of the units also support a link up, but again, dumping it hasn't proved to be easy. It doesn't look like one of the more, the impossible cases, but it's certainly not giving up its secrets easily to Sean when he's looked at it. No, the NHL games are fine. It's these mutant football ones and mutant hockey ones that don't have a good frame rate. I've seen original hardware videos of these, and the frame rate is just bad. I don't really know what happened. Because, like you say, the proper NHL games don't. They're nice and... Well, they're not perfectly smooth, but they're a lot smoother than this. Also, I really don't know how to play hockey, so I can't remember. I can't remember the technique for scoring, so it's like watching me play a football game where I don't have any clue how to play how to score in it. But there we go, down a hole. Oh, I've lost the puck again. But this was just from that era of trying to make everything a little bit gross, a little bit gruesome. I think this is a bit less over the top than the football game. Although look, you've got body parts there, and yeah, let's appeal to that sort of market. Let's just not actually score anything. Now, there's probably other controls that I'm missing. There we go. Hitting people with a stick. Nope, penalty. I guess I did something wrong, didn't I? Yeah, you've got to work out your techniques. That was a very Slimer impression, wasn't it? I mean, even the individual football games, some of them I can easily work out what to do, and some of them I can't. It's just a case of how the game wants you to score. Fight. There we go. Oh, here we go. Now, one recent dump, the Midway 3D Hockey, is it Wayne Gretzky? I don't remember his name, how you say it, because I'm not a big hockey fan. But there was a set of that added recently that is a prototype, but it's newer than the release version, and it's got fatalities in it. So the fight scenes in that one can end up with the players being sucked down to portals and the like. I don't know the story behind that, or why that version's was both later than the proper release, and why it's got that extra feature, and if that feature had been in development earlier and dropped, or if it was added post-release and they were going to release it and then, the NHL said, no, you're not having a game where our players can fall into bloody pits and die. Thing is, I don't know how to. I can work out how to shoot, but I don't know how to get the ball past the puck past the keeper in this version of the game. I can keep hold of it and I can go, yeah, you're not having this off me. But it's like, do I cross? I feel I should hit it backwards there, and then not fall down. Oh dear! Half my team is now fallen down a hole. Oh, this isn't going well, is it? Let's get the puck. Now, how do I get it to somebody else? See, that's an air shot. But this is probably the worst display of anybody playing an NHL game you've ever seen. Because I'm not very good at NHL games. Any of them. I mean, I used to be better at them. I did have one of them on the Mega Drive, and for a while I got quite good at it. And I remember the main technique though, just being going to the line, knocking it back, and then hitting it forward. But when you can't remember quite how that works, yeah. Yeah, I can imagine that technique maybe working for a while. So what are we saying? We're going here. Well, I think something happened. It's an interesting take on NHL. I think the programming could have been better. It does have a bit too much in the way of slow down. Nobody's scored yet, have they? Well, I guess I'm not losing. Blades of Steel on the NES. Is that another one where the NES version is better than the arcade? There are quite a few cases like that. Because Blades of Steel on the arcade, it's never really been one that I've considered to be a must-play arcade game. But, I might look at Blades of Steel on the arcade if I do another sports episode. I mean, the only sports special I did recently was the football one, where that's just one of the quick hour-long ones. Where I wanted to look at a few football games and talk about that bug fix to the J-League one. But, there's nobody to give the ball to. I keep saying ball. It's not a ball. It's a flat ball, okay? See, that's the attack button because I've got a chainsaw, but that's not helpful. I scored! I'm winning! Yeah, it should run on the Pi 4, shouldn't it? So I don't think it's one of the most demanding drivers. But yeah, give the arcade a try then. I'd be interested to know how you feel it compares. Anyway, this was Mutant League. In fact, it's not an end game, but I could just put Blades of Steel on briefly. Just because it came up in conversation. There are apparently trackball versions and joystick versions. I won't be playing the trackball version. So this is going to be like a 2-minute case of look at Blades of Steel and then possibly look at some... I'm not going to spend any time on it. But yeah, this is the arcade Blades of Steel. Okay, yeah, I am AAA. I mean, maybe the issue here is it does kind of look a bit like a NES game. It's very small sprites, single layer background. It's got some speech though. Yeah, this is... It's going down to make the save, is he? I didn't realise it was going to use my name. 30 seconds playtime left, you say? Anyway. Some Tecmo Bowl's another one where the NES version is generally more widely loved than... Did I say ball again? Oh dear. I've been playing too many football games, haven't I? Not the ball. That was the arcade Blades of Steel. Evening, Carlo. How you doing? Good to see you joining. So yeah, Blades of Steel arcade. I guess if you've played the Mega Drive NHL games, you go and try and play that. You're like, I just want to go and play the Mega Drive NHL games again. So I've probably never given it a fair chance. Try K-Blades. That's the handheld version, isn't it? Yes. I don't have the artwork installed for those ones. I keep forgetting to copy that. So I might look at that one on the special edition. Is that the one where the sprites sometimes gets... Well, the sprites, these segments sometimes get stuck lit. Or is that the double dribble one? The one where it happens on the original game too. We've got a vertical screen up at the moment. Let's have a look at Data East's Mad Alien. Now, Mad Alien's a really strange one because it's one of those Data East games that's sort of evolved over time and is also known as Highway Chase. And this version, the parent set, definitely seems more Highway Chase than Mad Alien. I mean, Mad Alien doesn't really make sense as a title. Playing Gradius is a bonus. I'll have to have a look at the NES version as well. Again, when I look at ports, then I'm gonna, because I do want to do at least one where I look at ports. So I will look at Blades of Steel as part of that, I think. Then, I mean, I'm not necessarily going to look at ports that were bad or ports that were good. Just some different ports of things, because one of the reasons I like MAME emulating a lot of different systems is the fact that, you know, you can usually quite easily bring up a port, and as long as the emulation in the drive isn't terrible, you can get a decent impression of it. But yeah, so why is this called Mad Alien? It's clearly not got much to do with aliens. It's a car versus bikers. Right, we have about 20 minutes of the stream left, by the way, because I'm aiming for 3 hours, as I usually do for these M streams. Yeah, so that's the parent set of Mad Alien. Now, the Mad Alien B set is got a very different look to it again. You know, this has got the blue backgrounds. It plays a bit differently too. Again, it feels like Data East weren't quite sure what this game was meant to be. This has got, you know, you've got two positions you can move up and down rather than quite as smooth. I think this must be an earlier version. Obviously, you can't see the aliens in the dark, or cars, or whatever they are. I mean, in this case, they're more like cars than bikers, but honestly, I don't know. I don't think that's really fair. I mean, I think Data East were really quite creative at times. They just seem to have a bad reputation. I mean, back when things like this were made, everybody was trying to do some sort of Space Invaders clone, and this mixes things up a bit. It's obviously got your tunnels from Monaco GP. Well, no, I mean, I like Data East. I don't feel that they were that unoriginal. Maybe I'll have to do a Data East special at some point just to talk about Data East, because I definitely have a soft spot for them. But yeah, that Mad Alien. What's set 2? Set 2 is... Set 2 again is like this. Was there another set? Now, it makes much more sense. This isn't an endgame anymore, but it's related. If you look at Highway Chase, which was on the cassette system. Why am I doing the window? So, speed up. Load from cassette. Now, this is called Highway Chase, or HWY Chase. Well, that's strange in the sense that HWY feels like they tried to squeeze it in when it would have said Mad Alien. So, did it start as Mad Alien and get renamed to Highway Chase or HWY Chase? Again, I don't know. Also, the cassette system version has the center marking down the road. I don't know if that's just missing on the dedicated hardware versions, or if they don't have it. And this is an odd game in the sense that the cassette system feels like it was designed around this game, because this is one of the only games I think to use the whole highlight headlight effect and everything else, and then the cassette system got all the sorts of other games. I have played Marble Madness. I might even played Marble Madness twice, but you know what? I can put Marble Madness back on. I'm not very good at Marble Madness, and it doesn't suit not having a trackball. But yeah, let's have a little blast of Marble Madness then. Is it not? Okay. But yeah, so maybe they just went with Highway Chase like that. But to me, it's strange that it's the same number of letters as Mad Alien. Like, it was a very quick change. But the game does seem more, in all versions, more like a game set on a road with cars. So Mad Alien makes absolutely no sense as a title. I don't know. Probably never know the full story of that one. I should have taken the other route, really, shouldn't I? Earlier. Now, I think... Okay, this run is worse than most of my runs. Yeah. I still can't believe for the sequel that never happened. Atari were actually considering making releasing it as a joystick game, and the only known prototype that's still out there is the joystick version, which is not dumped and probably will never be dumped because the owner doesn't really want to see it in MAME. But yeah, apparently we're not missing anything really by not having Marble Madness 2 or Marble Man as it's called. It's everybody who's played it said it's absolutely awful because it does appear at California Extreme quite often. Well, it did. I don't know if it still does. No, this isn't the video I even wanted to. I don't know if it still appears at California Extreme, and obviously the whole COVID situation has made a mess of any kind of live events. Yeah, I guess for the NES version, it's also designed to work with a NES controller, and you're not going to miss out not having a trackball. That always sounds like the Sega jingle to me. But in terms of audio design, one game that always reminded me of Marble Madness for the sound effect, the little sound effects, is Tasmania on the Mega Drive. And people really don't like that one for some reason. I've heard many people say that sound design on Tasmania is awful, but I actually really liked it. I'm not going to finish this track, am I? But Tasmania's got those little spot effects all the time. Music that just sort of feels like it's being generated on the fly. It's I love the sound design on that one. That was probably my worst run of Marble Madness in a while. The owners made promises to people who provided parts to repair it that it won't ever get released as a ROM. So, when you've got contacts with people and you don't want to break promises, and the only people who actually own the rights to the game know exactly who you are and could easily sue you to oblivion if the thing showed up, then you're probably not going to release it. If it is just how it is. Tasmania, you see, there's something about it. I like the factory stage. You can mess around with it. You can try and put boxes where boxes aren't meant to go. The whole minecart and lift stage, I like the minecart aspect, but it's just learning it. You don't have no real way of, especially the lifts, you don't know which lifts are going to kill you and which lifts aren't. You have to map out the level each time you play it. The water stage, you can skip over the entire stage pretty much just by jumping at the right time and going fast enough. And maybe in that sense it was one of those early sort of games I enjoyed for the speedrun. Before speedruns were a thing, and I'm not going to do any speedruns today, you're challenging your friends to try and complete this stage on Tasmania before, in the faster time than anybody else. And just had a lot of fun with that one. I think it's one of those where the Master System version is completely different again, isn't it? And I think the Game Gear version is completely different. And some people consider them better, but I just really enjoyed it. I might play it on the stream at some point. Should play some Mega Drive games at some point, even though I know most people are here to see arcades. Right. I'm going to go with Mad Moto. I don't think I played this one on stream yet. Mad Motor, even, not Mad Moto. This is by Mitchell on Data East Hardware, and wasn't marked as a prototype in MAME for a long time. Because, when a lot in the early days, there were a lot of dumps from boards. Nobody was really paying attention to the boards were prototypes or not, so you just had these dumps to work with. But then Mad Motor's one that really never showed up much again. And then when it did show up, you realise the chips aren't labelled like a final version of the game. And then you start to study it in more detail. You kind of realise this is likely not a game that was released. And to me, maybe the biggest giveaway on this one is this. Insert coin, final mode 08 credits. That's not a normal insert coin message. So what happens if you insert 8 credits? Which, you know, the insert coin, it's not even well presented now, that's very rough. 8 credits. 8 credits gets you a game that you really don't have to play. You can't die. Eight credits just puts cheat mode on and you can play through the whole game. And this is exactly what you'd expect in a prototype game or a show version of a game where they're trying to demonstrate the game to the press and they just want people to be able to play it and the press to make screenshots of what's going on and get to the later stage to show off bits of the game. But yeah, to me all the signs point that this is a prototype, which is why it's now marked as a prototype in MAME. When it does show up, it tends to be ridiculously expensive. I'm surprised because I think there's a solid concept here. There are definitely worse games where you're on a bike. The Akira game on the Amiga. But I think this could have easily worked as a home game as well. You know, it's just a beat 'em up on bikes, really, isn't it? Got that. But yeah, if you put 8 coins in, there is no challenge at all. You cannot die. Oh yeah, you got your powered up motor now. In general, you mean 16-bit versus 8-bits in general? I mean, most 16-bit CPUs gave you more access to larger memory spaces, which made organisation of everything else a lot easier. They can do more work. You know, 68K running at the same clock speed as a Z80s, you're going to get more out of it. You've got more registers to work with in many cases, so you know you're not wasting time swapping in and out of registers all the time. I mean, not all 16-bit CPUs are inherently going to give you better performance. If you look at some of the things that advertisers, so the first 16-bit CPUs, the TMS 9900, the benefits are probably not really that real. You know, they don't seem to actually offer much, and they're often paired with 8-bit hardware anyway, and their memory maps weren't much better than 8-bit. You know, they didn't access much more address space. But, you know, then you look at things like the PC Engine, where it's an 8-bit CPU, but the supporting hardware is really good around it, so you don't really notice. That applies to a lot of arcade games. You get a lot of arcade games that have really good supporting hardware, even though they're 8-bit CPUs, so you don't notice because you don't need the CPU power always. But it's not a simple question to answer. Thank you, Manshovel. Much appreciated. Thank you for the $4.20. A very innocent number, that isn't it? I don't know if it's going to come up in the. I think the alert boxes are enabled, but they've been. Oh, there we go. There we go. Thank you. It's now on the screen. So yeah, there's a bit of chat lag, as mentioned. And there are now coins in my pocket or in my bank account, probably. All right, take care then, and I might catch you on the bug stream later. I mean, it's not always one I join in with, but I have been known to lurk, so yeah, I might see you later then. Thank you for dropping by, and yeah, hopefully see you another time. Take care. This stream is going to be over in about 5 minutes anyway, so. See, apparently I'm dead. Anyway, but yeah, they say if you insert 8 credits, you get infinite lives on that, which is really unusual for an arcade game. And let's say that's pretty much why it's almost certainly a prototype. Where shall we go now? What shall we finish this stream with? Something simple, I think. Let's Actually, no, let's go with an all-time classic. I don't think I played the original of yet. Let's go with Mr. Do. Universal's Mr. Do. One of those games that you just have to love. Maybe I played it before, but I'm playing it again even if I played it before. I mean, the sound design, the way the you know, you get the increase, the notes change once you pick up, just makes you want to pick up more of the cherries. You've got the ball mechanic, which is frustrating, but the bug stream is Nova bug stream. It's an Amstrad CPC stream. I think is it on YouTube or Twitch these days? I don't know. But if you look up Nova bug, you'll usually be doing things like tape loading for the CPC because it's got a lot of original tapes. So yeah, if you like Amstrad CPC, then yeah, Novabug does quite a few good quality streams. So you know, I would not begrudge anybody wanting to go and watch Novabug. Come on, I'm not playing Mr. Do Well. Oh come on. Spy Hunter is a very strange one, yes. It's I think, to be honest, they could have got away with using an 8-bit CPU for the sound too. Spy Hunter, there's also the Spanish bootleg of Spy Hunter, isn't there, which has got the most ridiculous license by Midway stuff printed on the board, but that doesn't have the 68K, so that turns into a pure 8-bit driven game. But there are a number of cases. I mean, I think, was it you mentioned the Jalico ones before, and like why have they used the 68K for the sound? And honestly, I can't tell you. In fact, the way they've used the 68K for the main games there is quite questionable. There you go. So that's better. None of them really run well enough for me to do a MAMEception. I mean you say those 16:1 type things apparently have old MAME code in them, but that takes about 10 minutes to boot. The Happy Fish thing, Blowout, whatever it's called, doesn't actually seem to boot without some debug work. I don't know. The Game Crystal is just a PC, so that doesn't boot. I like this. I'm going to have to play Neo Mr. Do at some point too. Not on this stream. This is one of those games that also works because it's always got a nice jolly little tune going on. In fact, I'm going to end on a game that doesn't even begin with M. But I'm going to try to. Let's quit out of that. Since we were talking about Amstrad CPC, let's see if there's a disc version. Now, oh, got to change window size. Is this going to work? I have no idea. No, I don't want infinite lives or infinite time. Wow, start on the first level. This is not Fruity Frank. That is not the game I wanted to play. This is where the set names confuse me. Fruity Frank. I typed in the wrong short name there. That's my mistake. This is better. This is the right game. This is not the original loading screen though. This is clearly a hacked version of some sort. Anyway, Fruity Frank. Let's go medium. This is a Spanish version, isn't it? Yeah. That sounded wrong. Okay, this doesn't seem to be working properly. This is what happens when I do things untested. Let's see if the cassette version works on a 464 or if MAME's emulation is just broken. Right. Bear with me. I had this on cassette. You get lovely loading noises. Mr. E, I might look at that off stream. Mr. Do is a really feel-good game, yeah. But whenever I play Mr. Do, I will always be reminded of this one, which is the version I played at home really more than any other. Now let's see if it actually works here, if the MAME CPC emulation is just a bit too rubbish. Medium. Yeah, the sounds work now. I think it's just not fully 6.128 compatible or something. There we go. Because the sound chip's the same. But I've not done very well. But clearly this is Mr. Do, but for the home systems. But it's such a well-presented version of Mr. Do. Such a good fun version of Mr. Do. It's not a licensed version, but it's a good version. Don't get crushed by apples. Apples hurt. I used to be able to get really far in this game. I used to not die on the first level. You know, again, I might have played this on stream before. I can't remember. But if you want a good port, a good unofficial port of Mr. Do, this one, it shows what the CPC could do. It's colourful. It's got jolly tunes throughout. That are very quiet, actually. I might have to... Well, I don't know why they're quiet, but it's quite quiet. Go on, fall down there. Get that. Now, yes, some of the backgrounds maybe hurt your eyes a bit, but the fact is, you know, they're a lot more colourful than any other system at the time could offer. Oh yeah, and the pairs make a different sound when you pick them up. Now, the mechanics aren't quite the same. You can't push everything in the same way. Things don't fall in quite the same ways. And that was silly of me. That's a nice little transition effect too. Not many games of this period had all the transition effects, the colour cycle, the track mode. You know, it's presented like an arcade game. Look, this is like your classic Pac-Man intro. Let's go fast. Let's play it on fast. It's a bit faster. And for a CPC game, yeah, this is also nice and fast. A lot of CPC games were just slow, bad Spectrum ports. Here, what you've got is a nice, fast, good, quality game that holds up very, very well. And this is the last game I'm going to play tonight. It's not an M game, but it's Mr. Do related, so that makes it M related. So, yeah. I'm sure Man Shovel would approve, and Man Shovel is M related. Don't know if Main Fan approves, but I hope Main Fan approves of a Fruity Frank in an M stream. And Mick is here too, maybe still. I don't know. Maybe Mick's not here still. Mick was here earlier, and Mick is another M. But I should have stuck with medium speed, really, because that would have made it even more M related. But yeah, I say I'm winding down now. When these lives are over, I will be calling an end to this stream. So there are a lot of enemies moving around on this too. It's not a game that's only fast because there's no enemies, or like 1 or 2 enemies. It manages to get plenty of enemies without ever dropping, having too much slowdown or anything. It's just really impressive. A really impressive CPC game, this one. And the tunes vary between the levels as well. I don't know if you can hear them because they are quite quiet. Oh, got caught. I think that's it, isn't it? Yep, that's game over. So yeah, ended on you are worthy to be known as Fruity Frank the Frisky Freak. Well, the main stream. There we go. You can have a lot of that to choose it. The main stream. Mick, that's a very, very big amount to be descending. You sure you sure? Last time I had driving lessons, they didn't turn out too well. But maybe it's something I should consider again. But my judgment of space and everything is really bad. But thank you for the €100 donation there. That's quite a lot. But, okay. I will. So I mean, we've got we've got the whole lockdown to get out of the way first too, of course. But yeah, it might be something I need to consider again, because I don't know if we're going to be getting all our bus services back. So we'll see. Okay, so I feel bad ending the stream. Is there any game you'd like me to play before I end the stream after after that, or are you okay with me actually just ending the stream now? Did you just want to get that in at the end? And because just I quit out of Fruity Frank anyway. Okay. If I'll put on Mooncrester for a brief moment, because it's a classic, and I wasn't going to play anything else, but just give you time to reply if you want to reply, and if you've got any suggestions. Okay, you enjoyed it. Well, thank you, say much appreciated. I mean, it's a very big contribution. Anyway, say thank you for joining. I'll give one credit to Mooncrester, and then I will close the stream. But I feel like immediately closing the stream after that would just be a bit rude. But again, thank you, and I'm glad to hear you enjoy it, because I enjoy doing them too, and if people are enjoying them, it makes it even more worthwhile. And if people are discovering games, it makes it more worthwhile. This is why I do try and go off on a few tangents like the Fruity Frank there. Yeah. This is obviously a classic. This is a game that I do remember from being very, very young. It's one of the only things I remember from being young in a pub in Ashbourne, I believe. They had a Mooncrester and a Rally X. My grandparents used to take me there. No, this is not how you get a 4-hour stream. This is how I don't want to just quit after something like that. But yeah, this is a game that I remember being too small to use the cabinets, but I don't even remember where the pub was or anything. But I do remember Mooncrester and Rally X, and I remember always wanting Mooncrest on the Spectrum and never getting it. But Mooncrest has got a really good port on the CPC too, actually. Collisions are a little bit dodgy, but otherwise it's a really solid port. I don't know how the Spectrum version is, if it's on the Spectrum. You get your docking sequence. But yeah, I am overrunning the time now by about 12 minutes. Okay. There we go. Right on. I like the whole docking mechanic and the way, you know, now you've got a more powerful ship. Had a more powerful ship. And this tune, this little jingle at the start is one of those. To me, it's up there with that the whole Pac-Man one. It's just a shame. I think the track sequence is still a bit out of sync in MAME on this. It doesn't dock properly like the real hardware if you side by side it, which is really odd, and nobody's ever quite sure why. If you run it at the wrong refresh rate, apparently it gets better, but that's not a fix. Yeah, name entry is a little bit slow as well. I'm going with the sheep name to make up for the sheep not being a sheep earlier. I really should have probably just put thank you, Mick, because there were probably enough letters. But yes, thank you, Mick. And anyway, with that, oh, you're still here, I think, Peter. Thank you for continuing to be here and watching, and thank you for, you know, everybody else who is still here and watching and hasn't said anything, and everybody else. Yeah, Mooncrest and Moon Control are definitely different games. Ntsc put out enough Moon games of their own. The Moon was a popular thing, I guess. It was in space, and you know, everybody likes the Moon. But the Moon Alien, Moon Shuttle. There's quite a few Moon games. Moon War. I played that the other time. I want to play Moon War again, actually, but not now. But anyway, like I say, I'm shutting down the stream now, and this list of end games is starting to get to ones that I don't know if are going to make a compelling stream. So you're probably going to find more cases where I do start to throw in ones I've already played in the future stream, just to keep things flowing properly. I mean, I'm not sure multi-fish Russian gambling game is compelling. Or the Monopoly quiz game where I'm not earning the answers, but you know, we'll see. Got all the Metal Slug games to play still. I will probably do Metal Slug games in a stream, one of the future ones with other ones in the middle. But anyway, thank you for everybody, and I will catch you another time. I'll probably do some more Twitch streams too. But yeah, I hope to see everybody who has been joining in the chat another day, and thank you as well, because it's been a really busy chat today. There's been lots of people talking, and that's always good. That's what I want to see. I want to see people talking about the games, talking about everything, coming up with suggestions, and it's been really good for that today. And I've really enjoyed it actually. And yes, thank you. Morning where you are. Well, I say thank you, Saruk. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. But yeah, good again. Thank you for just dropping a message to let me know you've been here. It's always appreciated. But like I say, I am now moving the mouse. Well, I'm going to hit escape first, so I can move the mouse to the stop streaming button. And I say I will see you another time. Thank you.